All right, we're live. Go ahead, Ian. All right. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are across the world, across the nation. This is not Coast to Coast AM, and I am not George Norrie. Welcome, everybody. This is Conspiracy or Not. Here we come. We are joined with Jerry Cthulhu today. I have the regular gang as usual, Amy and Ian. Hello, everybody. How are we all doing?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Doing great. It's nice and sunny here in Victoria, BC, Canada. Loving it. Summer's finally here.
It's like freaking 90 degrees here in Atlanta. Miserable.
Yeah. It's, I don't know, warmish here on Long Island, but I don't know what the temperature is specifically.
There's not a chemtrail in the sky. So it's a nice
It was pretty light here today, too, chemtrail-wise.
Nice.
It's been light, actually. I haven't seen much chemtrail activity around these parts in several weeks. Of course, we've had a shitload of rain almost every day in Georgia. So
How about last night with the tornado warnings and all that rain? It was crazy.
I didn't get much. It was like what happened the other day when the trees fell, that video I put up. You said it didn't even hardly, it's like, what comment did you left? You said it skirted around you. And we got
it didn't rain here at all. Yeah.
Man, we had sideways rain, and it came past you. It went, west to east. So and you're like northeast or northwest of me. So I surprised you didn't get any of it.
Yeah, it was like about 4 o'clock. I got a tornado warning alert on my phone. I was actually in the bathroom, and I thought I heard sirens. I'm like, why are there sirens going off? And then I got the phone. So tornado warning in my area. So I left my house.
You do that sound very well.
I can be annoying on demand.
Awesome.
Well, that's why we have you around, Jerry. That's why we invited you.
So tell us a little bit how you started in the YouTube scene, Jerry.
Oh, I really am just getting started, to be honest. The first things I started to do were sky watches. I had an extra GoPro camera that I basically just point out the window and film it all day and make time lapses afterwards with poignant movie quotes and the music that correlates to the quote.
Nice.
In a humorous way, of course. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. And I don't know, at the end of May, beginning of June, the whole Corrygate stuff came up, and I've been monitoring, is a good way to put it, the flat Earth people. I'm not either or. I'm not round or flat. I'm not saying, I don't have it aside there, but I want to keep track on what's going on because it's interesting. Plus, I've been doing my own observations and things, yada, yada, yada. I started to see that group splinter horribly. And I got a bug up my ass to do something that kind of unified people together from different groups who don't normally communicate. So that was what I started the Hive stuff at the beginning of June. So, and that's been pretty good. We're going to do one after this tonight.
Oh, cool.
The Hive?
Yeah. And you guys are all welcome to.
What is the Hive?
You're doing right after this here?
Yeah, whenever this ends.
Okay. All right. Well, we run for 3 hours. I figured you probably know that. So you're welcome to stay for the 3, or if you need to go, you just let us know.
No, it's not. We will not be defined by schedules.
Awesome.
Awesome.
We're not beholden to anyone around here.
Not at all.
That's right. That's
So, yeah.
right.
So to answer Ian's question, it's a word we came up with. It's an acronym, but it has no definition, and we ask everyone else to make their own definition for what HIV stands for. But we do have a tie into bees, and it's kind of like, a think tank of people. But it's, I tried to make it. We're keeping it a drama-free zone. No trolls. There's no reason to troll. We're just talking. Nobody's fighting. It's not arguments. It's just discussion, conversation.
When I hear the word hive, I think of hive mind now.
Yeah, it is a hive mind of sorts, but it's not an evil AI one.
Right.
Yeah.
I suppose it's probably at the very least it's not a bad metaphor. What we do around here is crowdsource an awful lot.
Exactly. Yeah, crowdsourcing is a hive of sorts.
We try to, and I don't just mean we and on this panel. I mean this alternative community or whatever. We try to stay on the same page and try to get in the same mindset. So I mean, in a sense, it is kind of a hive mind to a degree. Not the robotic AI type like you were saying. It's not the mindless drones following one queen bee orders.
Yeah, it's more of a collective than a hive.
Collective consciousness. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not defined what it is. We actually have a Slack channel where, well, no one's really put any in there, but we list all the acronyms that people come up with. So it's kind of like a side game, you could say, to the chats. If you could think
Nice.
of it. You know what I'm saying? Like last time, our last one, this is a rough outline. We talked about time slips, the Mandela effect, remote viewing 9/11, the effects of multiple remote viewings of such events, AI and how it interacts with the archons, or if it does at all, anal probing aliens, Dr. Steven Skinner and how awesome he is, goofy YouTube channels, Stargates, jump rooms to Mars, Daryl the Magician, yada, 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 yada.
So nothing's off the table.
Nothing's off the table. We just, we talk about what do you think about this? Someone will say, what do you think about this? Oh, well, and then I'll talk for about an hour on it.
Right.
So it's a flowing conversation more than anything. It's not a show. It's not a podcast. It's a flowing conversation.
All right, cool.
Nice.
Well, I appreciate you having me on the other day when I joined you the last time.
Thank you.
I do like what you're doing over there. It's a lot like what we're doing over here, although we do have a tendency to call our thing a show. It's not much of a show. It's a free platform. We make of it what we can. It really just started with Ian and I chatting. We met in a chat room, almost 2 years ago. And then Ian and I sort of got together and broke off from whoever we were hanging out with, Robert, this guy that we met in. And, Ian starts asked me, hey, you want to do this every day, or every week? We'll have a scheduled time. We'll get together. And pretty soon I said, hey, why don't we give it a name, call it a show, and invite guests, it's distinguished guests, YouTubers, etc. So that's really what we're doing. It's a soiree, man. It's a get together.
Soiree. It's a perfect word. Totally. And what really kind of solidified it for me was a lot of the podcasts. You have to step. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to waste a show time on it, but
we got 3 hours, man. We'll go over time if we have to. Say what you got to say.
So, I listen to maybe 8 or 9 podcasts religiously, and then maybe 5 or 6 extra ones, just regular old podcasts. And one of them that I listen to, Grimerica, if you guys are familiar with them, have put up a Discord channel where all their listeners can talk. And this is kind of where I started we were talking about which podcast do everyone listen to. And there was really not a lot of union between the lists. So that's kind of what sparked this idea. You guys need to listen to this podcast. And then we started talking, and Discord has a voice chat for gamers, but you can use it for anything. And one of my tenets is definitely always record, because there's always gems in every conversation. So that was the other impetus behind doing this stuff live on YouTube too. So it's basically our conversations from there with multiple people from different podcast listening groups talking together.
Good for you.
Nice.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, Jerry, I assume that you probably saw the promo, and I hope that you glanced at the description box. Tonight we are going to Let me see. Let me just pull that up, and I'll just read that out loud for everyone. We're going to be basically discussing the truth community. What is truth? There's been a lot of in the last week or two. Certainly, there's been a hell of a lot of YouTube drama. There has been obviously the George Webb and Dave Acton debacle that pretty much shattered the truth movement in ways that no one really was prepared for. It was quite a shock, sent shock waves through our little community as to who to trust, who to believe, who's a shill, who's working for the government, and really what can we trust. So tonight we're going to have a somewhat of a philosophical examination of the truth community. We're going to talk about infiltration. We're going to talk about terminated channels, censorship, and the general state of affairs with what we call community. So that's where we are. Normally what I like to do at the beginning of our little soiree is just go over a couple of headlines and just some talking points. Today, not too many particular news headlines caught my attention this week that I have jotted down, but I did want to bring a few things to attention. Tomorrow, June 24th, tomorrow, is the celebration of the 300th anniversary of the first Grand Lodge of Freemasonry. So
300.
I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that, but our friend, the conscientious objector, his name is Dom, we call him. Well, that's his name. We call him Conchi. Anyway, he pointed this out many, many months ago, and we've been keeping an eye on this. Turns out tomorrow is the day. So all the lodges around the world are preparing their celebration. And also, there will be an additional second celebration on Halloween, October 31st. So we all ought to, everybody keep your eyes peeled. Probably not be too surprised if some false flag event, something happens tomorrow. That there's going to be probably thousands and thousands of Masonic rituals happening all over the world tonight and tomorrow.
Check the chat there, Aaron.
Yeah, we were having this discussion the other day. Wouldn't you think that they would do or try and keep the rituals to numerologically significant dates or on the equinox itself? I mean, they've missed all of those so far.
Well, here's my thought, and I take this from information that I picked up from Annie Logical. They don't just use numerological, but historical commemorations. So if something happened on this, for example, the Grenfell fire was, I forget the name of the fire that happened there. There was a fire in umpteen jillion years ago, something, and it happened on the same date. And the numbers that died in that fire were the numbers they reported died in the news. So it's not just numerological, although if they can get the numerology and the tributes to the past to all line up, they're delirious.
Yeah, exactly. You're saying that it's not possible, right?
Well, I'm saying not always.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think it's like any kind of ritual or anything. I mean, I would tend to believe it's more of a repeating cycle of history being played out again.
I think they do it deliberately.
No, I don't think anyone's doing it.
Oh, I do.
I'm not saying all of them. In some cases, absolutely, but
there are psychopaths in control on our planet, and they are very much into the numerology, the tributes, and the gematria.
It's all about symbols, rituals, and numbers.
Right, but like I'm not of the opinion that the all the media is encoded with gematria that's significant.
Well, not all of it, but I'm going to tell you anything on the mainstream is probably.
Yeah, any of the major events that they splash all over the news for a week straight, definitely.
But how is it possible? How is it possible?
Because it's
write
all
the script.
orchestrated. We live in a matrix.
It's all scripted. They write the scripts. In
I
fact,
realize it's scripted. I just think it works out. The gematria works out that way. See, the way I look at it is that
I think they choose their stuff for the gematria. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they don't encode some headlines and news. Well, I think all the news stories are totally encoded, but the headlines specifically, I think just work out. The gematria works out to be significant on its own, not necessarily put there.
I think I tend to agree with Jerry. I think a lot of it probably does work out on its own.
Well,
Because we're in the matrix.
Here's the thing, though. If you look at your headlines, you'll notice that sometimes they put single quotes around terms and phrases, and those are the ones that, when you run the gematria, usually come out highly significant to the event. And I'm going to say there's no way they could have just randomly said, gee, let's put these single quotes around this just for the hell of it, and then have it somehow work out on the gematria. I really don't think that that's the case.
Right.
I have to believe they have put those single quotes around the terms and phrases because they know it has the gematria they want.
I'm sure that does happen on some headlines, but like, you know, the general ones, especially. Okay, so here's the question: if you saw something in quotes, which gematria system is significant? You know,
Right.
and then how can you mix 3 different ones in a 1,000-page story?
That's always been my big problem.
It's like, you know, I'm not saying you do this, but other YouTubers, you know, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, will always find the right system that matches his narrative. Or
Well,
her narrative.
yeah. I know what you're saying.
Let me throw this in here. Citizen of Gotham is in our chat right now, and he mentioned earlier, a moment ago, that everything is coded. AI is doing the gematria.
Yes.
Now there is.
Yes. I was going to say
I-
that.
Well, that
I'm still under the impression that we're under a supercomputer spitting out stuff that adds up.
Well, look at it. This is the way I look.
Mathematically correct.
This is the way I look at it. That when I see geometrical patterns that aren't obviously human injected, I see that as like. Do you remember when in the Matrix, in the movie, when the dude was looking at the screen and the numbers were falling and he could tell what was happening? Because that was like the blueprint or the template of the Matrix that he was viewing. That's kind of what I look at. The gematria is a signature or fingerprint of the AI or the system, the control system, in our reality. So it's easy to pinpoint what's organic and what's inorganic. How's that?
Okay, well, here's a question. This AI that we're discussing, my question is this human modern AI, or is this perhaps an alien ancient AI?
Unknown.
Alien ancient AI.
Maybe both.
The reason I ask is because, you know, a lot of us, quote unquote, you know, researchers, truthers, many times you can go way back in history, way back, and, you know, into the major events in history, and you can find all kinds of gematria encoded in those events as well, long before we ever had any computers, despite what the government has that they don't tell us, and they're always ahead of us. You know, when we had our first computers, the government probably had them for 50 or more years, maybe. So let's go back 100 years. Let's go back 200 years. Let's go back to Napoleon. Let's go back before that. You know what I mean? There's gematria encoded in everything.
Yep. And I agree, and it's everywhere, and I look at that as you know, inorganic or system built, run by the system, however you want to say it yourself. And the ones that are human injected are injected by people who are loyal to that system.
Okay, well, let me throw out another a little bit of a mind bender. When we had Joseph Farrell on, he gave us 45 minutes of pretty much of a freelance overtime. After all of our questions were done, the show was pretty well over. We even ran our outro, and he hung around, and I didn't end the broadcast. He gave us 45 minutes of just off the cuff conversation. We talked a little bit about CERN, and we talked about, you know, some of the stuff that they're doing over there. He mentioned these data correlation experiments, and we were also talking a little bit about consciousness and how human consciousness has an effect, on our world, and how CERN could be potentially manipulating the consciousness of the planet. So I had a little bit of an epiphany. It came to my mind that what if our own subconscious is the driving force behind the gematria? What if deep down we, in our own activities, are subconsciously playing a role in how the gematria ultimately works out? Do you know what I mean?
I do. It's definitely a possibility, but I would go so far as to say that everything is generated by our subconscious. So yes, of course, it's from there.
Okay.
I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that.
I mean, our consciousness in and of itself renders our reality, and the collective shapes it.
Well,
Yes, to a certain degree, you're right.
from my perspective, and this comes from a spiritual experience that I had, everything, okay, when I came back from that experience, if that's the right term, I don't know how to describe when I was suddenly not everything and nothing simultaneously.
It's called ego death.
Consciousness creates the now. Everything is consciousness at some level of awareness. We co-create the now. Consciousness.
Yes, absolutely.
We are co-creating the now.
But the subconscious is part of that.
I suppose, I guess maybe I struggle a bit with the subconscious. I've had several people tell me that it seems like I'm sort of, I don't have a separation there. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I don't believe it. I don't think you understand. I mean, well, I don't. If your subconscious has access to all realities at all times, then that means you would have access to real if you were one with it.
Well, I've been there.
Can you go at will? Can you just right now flip somewhere else?
Conceivably.
But then
I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know.
It's the thing is, I don't go somewhere else. I become everything and nothing simultaneously, and I can't bring back details. It's not like I can go out there and get the details and then come back and relay them.
And you can repeat that process and do it all the time, right?
Yes, that is something I can do, is just become everything and nothing. When
I've heard of that. It's basically you're flipping your awareness into the not now, into no time, essentially.
Well, except that it's all time.
All time. Yeah, right.
All dimensions, and no time, no space, no dimensions simultaneously. I don't know how else to
become one with the universe, right?
Well, I already am one with the universe. We all are. We just, most of us aren't aware of it.
No, I realize that. So the other thing I thought of when you mentioned that was the feeling people get when they do a lot of hallucinogenics and they experience what they call breakthrough or ego death. That's exactly what it's described as. And if you have done any kind of entheogens, you would know this.
Well, I have, but I never, when I experience this and when I experience it, when I go there.
Different.
Yeah, very different. I've done LSD, I've done mushrooms, I've done DMT. Let's see what else. I'm sure there's something else.
That's cool. I've never experienced either, so I can't say. I'm just saying what I know, what I've heard.
Yeah, the spiritual experience was vastly more impactful and lasting And, like I say, since that first time that I didn't try, I was doing something. I don't even remember what it was. And then just suddenly there I was, seeing everything and nothing, and being everything and nothing. And I mean, it's overwhelmingly impossible to describe in words.
It's a higher dimensional concept. It would probably be impossible.
Yep. And so, the acid trips and the mushrooms and the DMT and all that, they had their impact, but not like this. This was
Cool.
This changed my life. The trips with the various substances made minor tweakies, but they weren't a big poof,
Right. Well, again, I would say, that's one, what you did was organic and the other things were maybe not organic per se. The
I
consciousness.
Yep.
So, Jerry, would you?
Maybe those things actually simulate the ego death, and what you experienced was real, true, whatever that experience is. You know what I'm saying? If we are in a simulation, then the mushrooms here would be simulated mushrooms, and they're going to simulate that experience. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of interesting.
I did not see that this is simulated per se. It is.
No, not your experience. Sorry.
No, I'm talking about the world, now. It is not simulated per se. That is not what I got. It's a very emerging reality.
Right, because everyone's starting to think that way, so it's starting to become that way. Maybe. Yeah.
Right.
Or maybe
that's pretty much how the people in the secret societies that run this world operate anyways, don't they? They create a conscious thought through their subconscious, and then it manifests itself through repetition and spreading onto others, right?
It depends. I mean, if you don't want to talk about like how media shapes our future and how sci-fi movies, like look at Aliens, okay? I personally do not believe in aliens or that are aliens visiting this planet. There may be other dimensional beings, but there's no one. I don't think people are coming here from other planets.
Why not?
For various reasons. It's too
no
far.
absolute proof to begin with.
Well,
Because there's no proof, and quite frankly, I don't actually believe space is the way it's been described to us.
well,
That's another show.
That's another show, exactly.
another show.
That's a
That's
very
right.
long show, yeah.
Get back on track.
There's no proof of
I'm just
either space or aliens, so But yeah, so there. What was the question?
Yeah.
Before I asked why,
Yes.
I don't remember. I don't recall.
But I don't know. I mean, it could be real. I just don't know. I'm just not going to believe NASA CGI as what's really there.
Well, you know what my take on NASA is. Okay, my take is that they started the flat Earth. I consider it a psyop to hide the real reason they fake things, and I have a theory on what that real reason is, based on the Vedas, where they describe bumping into a barrier. Now, I don't think it's like a dome over a flat Earth. I think it's a barrier all the way around our planet that we can't get through. That was erected, and yes, I do give high probability to ET being involved on our planet. It's, again, based substantially on ancient writings. And
that could be ET from other
literally,
dimensions, though. That's what I'm saying.
I didn't see any other dimensions, but I mean, I did and I didn't. It's not like
other realms, not dimensions, realms, other universes.
Well, I didn't see that either. But
Well, you can't see
then
that because
again-
you're in this universe.
But then, my point is that whatever it is has put a barrier around our planet that we can't get through. And in fact, there are legends around the globe of a time when there was no moon.
Right.
So what I think is that that's an artificial construct, kind of like a Death Star, only
I agree.
different.
I agree.
And that is the wardens of the prison, that this is literally a prison planet.
Right, but I think
John-
they're higher dimensional beings, and the moon is the 3D expression of what they are. I don't think there's real people on the moon there. Well, I don't think you can get to the moon, but besides that,
I think there are beings on the moon that built that craft and watch us. That explains to me the Watchers.
maybe I don't know. I don't know.
That's
The one thing I wanted
why-
to say about your barrier, I
Uh-huh.
think that could very well be the Van Allen radiation belts.
Well, no, because they dissipate at the poles.
Yeah, I
And
know.
It wouldn't be a barrier then. We
If
could
it's a
just
fu-
go around it. What I think we've got going is something that is entirely encasing the planet just above low Earth orbit. Because as far as I can tell, low Earth orbit stuff seems to be pretty real for the most part, unless you count the ISS, which I don't.
But what else? I mean, yeah, it could be. I think like low Earth orbit's another layer on whatever we are. Like, say, if we're a plane, they're another plane that's higher. Just like the astral is a plane somewhere here. Maybe from that plane, the Earth looks round, but from down here, it looks flat. Maybe that's how it works. Who knows?
Well, it would look flat down here because of perspective
And
and
scale.
scale.
Yeah. Well, it's not that big.
It's pretty,
But
compared to
if you
us,
were-
it's pretty damn big.
If you picture a donut, right? The Earth, what we know as the Earth, the map we're given, like the whole AE projection map, could fit on the top of that donut, and it would be round on the edges, and the bottom could be something else. You never know. I mean, there's a million ways it could be.
Well, one of my big clues is the stars.
Yeah,
Because I
that's a
cannot.
real hard one to get over, Jerry.
That never
I
move.
cannot. No, the stars that appear to move, with the northern stars mirroring the behavior of the southern stars and vice versa.
It depends
And
on what. I'm sorry.
the thing is that anywhere in the southern hemisphere, the point of rotation is always due south. Anywhere in the northern hemisphere, the point of rotation is always due south, and any other construct would put that point different places depending on where you were observing it from. The only model that explains that, and very elegantly, is a globe spinning in space.
I tend to agree with Amy. The only issue I have with not so much the globe model, but the heliocentric model. I'm under the impression, or I'm under the belief or the understanding that it is a spiraling. We're in a vortex shape, a conical toroid. And while I've got the floor here, I want to pause everybody and welcome our new friend Mod Wiz. How you doing there, Mod Wiz?
He's got his mic muted.
I
Hey,
know.
Radagast.
Hey, how are you? Yeah,
Who's that?
Radagast. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Mud.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Same here.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've been wanting to talk to this guy for a little while. I met him I saw him in a chat with Jerry and Chanter a couple of weeks ago, and we shared a couple of comments back and forth. But I've been wanting to talk to this guy for a little while. He's got a really interesting perspective on things, and he's friends with Jerry, so I hope Jerry doesn't mind. But I took the
Not at all.
initiative and went ahead and invited him in here tonight because he was hanging out and watching and listening. So welcome, Radagast, and what do you have for us?
Well, I'm going to just, I'm very aware of how Jerry conceives of things, and he's my brother who I love, and trying to break through that is like trying to break through the grid that they identify. And there are plenty of things for Jerry and I to agree on. So, you know, I listen to him with interest. I don't certainly when he speaks, I'm always going, you know, I mean, I certainly listen, but I have my own, let's say, gnosis of experience, and I have to go with that. But you know, to me, it's kind of like a personal thing, a way I operate, you know, in my magical ways personally, and so it's
you know what it really is. I think is that reality is a bit very much more subjective than we expect.
Oh, yes, but I do believe there's an objective place to play together. And I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was done. I just want to throw that out.
And so I try to look for I try to look for where, you know, where we have common agreements, you know, like music, drinking a beer, growing some garden stuff, maybe making a community, telling fart jokes, things like that, you know.
Well, look, Citizen of Gotham just said Freemasons are subordinate to the Draconians. Where are you guys on this concept of this reptilian alien race that might be behind all of the misgivings of this planet?
How much do you want to piss the people off watching?
I'm not here for the people watching. I'm here for myself, and if anybody watching can benefit, then hooray, huzzah. Otherwise, say what you got to say.
I don't know what they are. I've never seen one.
Well, I'm a third-degree Mason. Although I left the lodge, I guess, back in 2010, and because it was kind of boring for me. I mean, I went in being who I am. My name, you know, Mud was a little hint, and but they were certainly good guys. And at the Blue Lodge level, again, we're talking no higher than third degree. Although there were a few other guys in there who were of higher degrees. But at the third degree level, you know, meetings largely are around who are we going to help with rent, who's going to drive somebody to the dialysis unit, and of course their famous, you know, bake sales and other stuff. They were really very good men. Some of them drank too much, but I actually found them in many ways politically naive because they kind of. I mean, basically, many of them would be, at least at that time, were fake news people. So now the fuckery that we're talking about is, you know, certain. To me, they might be Masons, but that's in name only, and it might be at the higher levels. It might be organized, but the local lodge that you see in your neighborhood, those are some really good men in there.
Yeah.
I'd have
what
to
if,
guess that.
What
yes.
if you were to? Would you be able to? Happens in a lodge?
Would I what?
Would you be able to tell us what happens in a lodge?
Not really. I mean, again, it's not about secret. It's, you know, you have an agreement that what happens in a lodge stays there. So, you know, as a man of honor and integrity, I have to.
You're sworn to secrecy.
It's not sworn. It's a matter of an agreement, and the integrity of making an agreement with people. Now, if there was anything you know, nefarious that I ever observed there, then I would feel the need to speak out. But I can say what happens at those lodges is really benevolent. If
Fish fries on.
I would even go as far to say the people who are, you know, whoever's in charge, the powers that be or whatever, aren't true Masons. You know, they're like a brotherhood within the Masonic order.
Right.
Masonic is the breeding for all of these other secret societies.
Yeah, maybe it's their testing ground. Who knows? But I don't think, you know, every Mason's evil. God, no, they're great.
No, I agree with that.
Well, let's find out why
Christ was allegedly a Mason.
Well, let's. I also want to throw out that the very, very first ritual that any Mason undergoes is the recreation of the Hiram Abiff ritual, which is a death ritual based on keeping secrets. Now, Radagast said that it's not it's more of an agreement. It's not that he's coerced into keeping secrets. Of course, being a low level Mason at this point, you're probably not privy to much of the secrecy that goes on, and I'm no doubt you're aware of that.
They have like indoctrination rituals at almost like every 3 levels. I thought that there's a ritual. I mean, graduating from high school is a ritual.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to really define your term. Is the Hiram one the one where the one pant leg up blindfolded? That one?
No, Hiram. I don't know about the pant leg on the Hiram Abiff, but the Hiram Abiff ritual, and Modwiz can either agree or disagree or tell us where we're wrong. It's originally he was surrounded by 3 men who wanted him to reveal the secrets of Masonry, and he said no, and they ask him 3 times, and he says no 3 times, and then they kill him. So as a first degree initiate, you play the part of Hiram Abiff. And I think you are, I'm not sure, I think you're blindfolded. And then it may be a situation where the pant leg is rolled up. But
your heart is exposed. Your left.
That's right. That's right. Your shirt is open. Your heart is exposed. But yeah, you play the part of Hiram Abiff, and then you reenact being murdered for keeping the secret and not revealing the secret.
I heard they lead you around like a donkey around the lodge while you're blindfolded.
That's actually pretty cool, though.
Which part?
The ritual.
What part is cool?
It builds trust amongst everyone within the group. And if you're looking at it as a secret club, that's a pretty cool ritual. There's nothing wrong with it.
Well, certainly from within the club perspective, I see your point. It's not helping their public persona, and it's, to me, I equate it as the mafia, the Italian mafia guys sitting outside out front of some pizza shop smoking cigars and pretending like, hey, all we're doing is selling pizzas, while when the sun sets, they're running hookers and heroin out the back. It's just a front organization.
I don't see local lodges like that at all.
Well, no, not local lodges. Local lodges are the front, obviously for the Grand Lodge, and then of course everyone pays their dues, and so you have this flow of cash that obviously flows uphill, right?
Yeah, just like the Vatican.
I was just going to say that is exactly right. Just like the Vatican, all the money flows uphill.
It's a fucking multi-level marketing scheme.
Well, when you guys are done, the Mason will speak.
Yeah, please go ahead. Don't hesitate to pipe up.
Well, I don't like to cut in. From the Blue Lodge perspective, the 3rd degree is the highest level of Mason. Everything else is extra.
Right.
And now, if you can buy a book called Duncan's Freemasonry, and everything that is quote unquote secret is right there in the book to read. Okay. So that's one way around it. Like, in other words, I can direct you where you can buy something on Amazon. But again, for me, agreements are a matter of my own honor and integrity, and not about any fear of reprisal. The only reprisal is my own disgust with myself of not keeping a word that I said I would keep. And again, there's nothing there. If there was anything nefarious, that would be different. But I feel there's nothing nefarious that to reveal, and so there's only what goes on there, and that's kind of private, because that's how it's set up, and that's what I agreed to. Now, one of the reasons I left the lodge is because of the trickle up. I did realize that certain people who seem to be connected with out above the Blue Lodge Masonry seem to be part of what I consider the dark or ugly left-hand abusive path. So knowing that part of my dues was going to fund that, I could not support that with my dues.
Right.
Right.
So that was my integrity, was I'm not going, if everything stayed at the local lodge, then I would have been fine, because we, one of the things we do is decide what to do with our dues. and much of that was benevolent and helpful work. We would bring up subjects and how is this, how do we like this, and talk about a generous bunch. It was really, really good men. So I just want to be clear about the about the third, up to third degree, what happens in a local lodge, as far as the benevolence of the men there, and if anything, what I found to be both political and metaphysical naivety.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about like a 33rd degree Freemason, we're talking about the Scottish Rite or the York Rite, right?
Well, only the Scottish Rite goes that high. The York Rite doesn't have as many degrees.
How many does the York have?
I forget.
I think it has 31.
No. Well, not technically. There's like a graph of the two where they show the two Mason lodges and what are the names of the steps and how many of the York Rite and how many there are of the Scottish Rite. And the Scottish Rite goes up to 32nd. To 33 is an honorary degree.
So don't you have to do a certain ritual to move up a level in Freemasonry?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I mean, I would think there's a ritual for
an
every,
act or something to
for
move
every
up.
level.
Because a lot of the stars and a lot of the musicians and stuff, they all seem to do these things look like a woman, and they have to go out and get humiliated in public in order to, it seems to me like it's in order to move up a level in Freemasonry.
That's something else, I think.
Well, also, I mean, again, anybody who, for me, I mean, well, you do have to move up to become a Shriner. A Shriner is its own degree. But the Shriners are known for, if anything, what they do for, burn units and children. So I think it really takes a while before you really start, where it really starts maybe getting weird. Again, people like, Truman, who supposedly was a 33 degree Mason, to me, he was a politician first. And at least a sociopath and not a psychopath second. And that the fact that he happened to be a sociopath that was also a 33 degree Mason is another story. So, I mean, I'm not trying to divorce what we have seen, what I call fuckery and darkness from
Right.
people who also appear to be high level Masons. I am just trying to say, like, in other words, I can say with boredom that I am a third degree Mason who left the lodge because it was boring for me as a metaphysician and a modern wizard. And it was also politically naive to the point of, basically, thinking what Mika Brzezinski says is gospel truth.
Can I ask you a question? What is the significance of the crescent moon?
Something. Well, first of all, that's not part of the lower things, and there is a lot of astrology in there, and that it doesn't get revealed unless you go up there. I mean, the basic 3 levels is about making of good men, and that's really what it is.
Right. You have to give to charity to become a Mason and all that too, right? Like you have to.
No. There's no requirements other than being a male and admitting to a higher being. That's the requirements. And that, you don't have a criminal record and all the rest of that stuff.
Right.
I think my biggest problem with Masonry is you have to be a man. I didn't choose this fleshly configuration I happen to wind up in.
Well, there's women ones now.
Well, yeah, but they
Like
still segregate.
I mean, whatever it is.
All right,
the Eastern Star.
Yeah, daughters of the Eastern Star. Well, let me just quickly kind of say, first of all, we have to go back into antiquity to really understand that the Masons were, first of all, originally real Masons.
Actual Masons, yeah, we know.
Actual Masons, and they, they did, and so geometry and a lot of that stuff was part of, and geometry was part of the lesser mysteries of the mystery schools.
Well, they built Solomon's Temple, the first one.
And it was also somewhat of a secret. I mean, they kept it very
Their art. Yeah.
it was a secret skill and art form that was learned after many, many years of apprenticeship, and the Masons were so highly sought after during the time that Radagast is talking about, in the original time of the original actual Masons. Their skill was so highly sought after by kings and sultans and whatnot, for building temples and churches and castles and things like that. And it was a skill that very few people possessed, and it was a skill that the Masons recognized as valuable, and they kept it to themselves.
The craft, they call it the craft.
And so
right?
there lies the beginning of the secrecy, of the secret knowledge, and ultimately it goes back to the original geometry.
I thought it was the work, the great work, or is it Scientology?
Anyway, I want to say with the Mason, one of the reasons they kept the things secret is because they were sacred and they could be abused. Let's take Washington, D.C. as a perfect example. It is set out in a grid way that wherever, like the energy of Washington, D.C. will affect the rest of the country. So if you have good people there, there will be a benevolent effect. When you have the current cesspool there, you have the spreading cesspool effect. So that was so the real part of the secrecy was that it wouldn't be abused, because it started out initially as the benevolent mystery schools. All magic and knowledge can be abused, and you know, so they had their own. One of the reasons why you had to kind of be investigated before you joined is to kind of get your moral character, and so really the origins of the Masons and that whole thing was all part of the mystery schools, and Masonry was one of the lesser mysteries. I mean, woodworking was part of it, pottery, art. They were
woodworking. I'm sorry. Please continue.
You know, they were educated. I mean, the mystery schools were really kind of universities. So you had the lesser mysteries were part of practical, very highly skilled things to make a good, healthy society work. And then when you got into the greater mysteries, you started learning astrology, stargazing, which is the use of the sky in a way that you can kind of see things in real time. It's not quite astrology. It's how the Magi are part of an ancient mystery school that you could tie in with that group. Like even when you see the pyramids in Mexico that were built originally by Quetzalcoatl type good benevolent people, you also had observatories, and those observatories were the people initiated into the higher mysteries to observe the sky, and not from a strictly astrological point of view. And what I say by not strictly astrological is because, like, let's say there's a date coming up, September 24th. Currently in the constellation of Virgo, which is kind of very symbolic of Gaia, Jupiter is in her belly. It's moving out of her belly. It'll be out of her belly completely on September 24th, which means that from the Gaian perspective of being on this planet and the Gaian consciousness, Jupiter is being born. Now, Jupiter kind of stands for justice in many ways. It's a benefic planet. So, I mean, if anything, if I were to read the sky and do an interpretation of that, I would say maybe the whole pedophilia thing comes down about then, because that is one of the horrible things on Gaia, and that Jupiter being born on the 24th might be the beginning of justice and the cleanup.
Doesn't the eclipse start to mark the beginning of that process in some manner? Does the eclipse, I should say.
The eclipses have their own energy, and I unfortunately haven't listened enough to be able to speak what I would consider coherently or even, usefully on that.
Oh, no, I remember that the eclipse somehow ties into the beginning of the cycle of that. You can actually see Jupiter if you look at like the constellation drawn out with Virgo with her legs open. It like goes in between her legs. That's the progression of it, whatever it is. Didn't you and I talk about DC and the ley lines? Was that you?
Could have been. I don't know.
We were talking about how it was laid out neutrally, and whoever's in control can use it. Just what you said. It was.
Yeah, it was kind of like what he said. Yeah, like any tool, it can be used for good or ill.
I totally agree.
And that's the part of the secrecy, is to keep it from the scumbags, because they're parasitical. So they'll let you do all the work. then they'll rile up some people and tell you that, oh, you can raid the temple and keep all the gold. But what they really want is they want the machinery so they can do their fuckery.
Right. They can't program without the control rooms.
Yeah, are you familiar with the artwork on the Philadelphia?
You
On
cut
the what?
You cut out, Ian. Say again.
Are you familiar with the artwork and the what's the word I'm looking for? The decor of the Philadelphia Grand Lodge?
No.
Have you seen what's on the wall?
I think I might have looked at some of that. Once again.
Well, I urge everybody here to go to my channel and watch. It's what's called The Secret of the Universe.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes a look at Edward Leeds Scalnon's Coral Castle in Florida, and he goes and shows what's on the Grand Lodge it's Philadelphia, right? That Grand Lodge.
Yeah, I think I did see your video.
And he basically breaks down the whole meaning of everything with the free energy and how they were able to levitate and change the state of matter and things like that. So
Yes.
I urge everybody to go watch that. It's very interesting. It'll show you how rotating magnets and alternate current right on the wall and how that's applied.
Yeah.
Well, rotating magnets is what the Nazis were doing with the Bell Project, and
That's right.
it is said to have been seen by many people actually levitating, so they were able to achieve some sort of anti-gravitics with counter-rotating magnetic fields and high electricity.
There's a guy named Maurice Cotterell who has reverse engineered that to figure out why it really happens. It's kind of interesting.
Say that again. Who?
His name's Maurice Cotterell. I'll put it in the chat. Yeah, I'm
gonna write that down.
He has a theory on how that works, and it's an interesting theory. And I won't get into it. It's long and boring and chemically, but it's basically that the hydrogen, the atoms in the atmosphere have two spin states. Is his theory, and when you put them in a counter-rotating magnetic field, they switch states. And when they switch states, they become essentially weightless.
Okay. Interesting. Put that in the chat because I want to write that down. I want to check that out.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. He's actually moved on. Now that he's conquered anti-grav, he's moved on to leaky gut syndrome. He's all about health stuff. So.
Okay, so have you guys seen, if this is going around the internet right now, in Caracas, Peru, near Nazca, they found a mummy that has a naturally formed elongated skull that has no sutures and 3 toes and 3 fingers on each hand and foot that are very long. Have you guys seen this thing?
Yep.
I've missed it.
Yes.
Let's see. I'm looking it up. I'm going to do a screen share in just a second here.
Elongated skulls. They said they used to stretch their heads.
Yeah, we know about the head binding, but there are telltale signs when the head binding is employed. You can see clear indentations, and for some reason my screen share is not.
You'll also have regular human sutures where the true skulls don't have different cranial sutures.
That's right.
Yes.
Or none at all.
And
This one.
The thing is that when you do cranial deformation, you cannot increase the capacity. You'll still have roughly the same capacity, just in a different shape. Whereas with these skulls, they're like sometimes as much as 2 times the capacity or even greater. And there's no way you could do that just by deforming a human skull.
All right, I'm going to drop a link in the chat here.
All right, I'll screen share it.
Yeah, because my screen share is not engaging. And
Now, Peru is a really fascinating place. I mean, I could go into the whole flood and everything else, the deluge about Peru, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that Mount, what was it called again? Machu Picchu or something? The one they found on the top of the mountain,
That's
buried
Machu.
in the brush.
That's my
Yeah, that,
Yes, that's Machu Picchu.
yes.
Machu
Machu
Picchu.
Picchu.
Yeah, I mean, that was where they escaped the deluge, right? And they lived through the flood because it was such a high elevation. That's my belief.
Well, they also have said that the people who built the original things. I mean, there's megalithic structure, and then you can see later kind of Incan structure, completely different kinds of masonry.
Yes.
And one of the reasons that the advanced people wanted to live higher was there wasn't a lot of the tropical diseases that were part of the lowlands. It was a much healthier environment, just for anybody, never mind just for them, but they knew that kind of hygiene.
And unsullied plant medicines, too.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that was just my theory.
All right. Well, my screen share seems to be working. Has everybody got me here?
Yep.
I've got it on sharing right now, Aaron.
Oh,
How do we know this isn't just some kind of sci-fi channel production?
So
We
do you want
don't.
to play this through, or?
well, I will tell you this. There's Jaime, what's his name, that Mexican UFO researcher standing in the background there. And that's a guy who is easily debunked. He puts out a lot of foo-foo nonsense.
Yeah, he does.
He sponsored that big Roswell slide nonsense that went on a couple years back.
Yeah, this guy is not anything I would consider trustworthy.
This alien's about as believable as
What part of this video do you want to show here?
Are you? Well, I thought I was sharing. Actually, it looks like I am.
You have to click on your icon and hide the Hangout URL, or you're going to get sniped now.
All right. Are you guys seeing that never-ending mirror thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Minimize
Well, all
it.
right. Well, then I've got the screen share right now, and so here it is. And if you can see this image here, basically, I'm on Secure Team 10. They've got. I just basically did a quick search for mummy found in Peru.
Wow.
So I'll just jump around in this video and check out the different images. They do show a few different angles. Let me see. It's
Well,
try to get a different picture. There we go. There's a little. So I look. It's pretty obvious that this thing is wrapped in some sort of plaster. I suspect that this was done during the mummification process.
either that or this is another fake news story.
Well, see, that's again that brings us back to our original topic for the evening, and what's actually true and what's trustworthy.
Well,
now, okay, the story here is that they're doing DNA testing, that they've determined that this is a female. And so, it just depends on how much you're willing to believe of any given story.
I see 0 titties on that thing.
Yeah, but if it's alien, would they necessarily have such?
I don't know. I've never met an alien.
Yeah. I'm just saying. I haven't either, so I have no clues.
I make my truth discernment based on the utility of what I want to do next and now, and so that's I kind of really I'm open to just about anything. There are certain things I will disregard, but ultimately for me it's about we need to reclaim this planet that I believe was given to us, and we need to stop. We need to find what we agree on and what we want to do next. Or else the few will rule the many. The many can only do things once they become organized, and if they organize, not so much about what they believe, but what they want to do next.
Well,
And now,
go ahead.
that to me, that's what we need to focus on. What's of utility to us? And
Well,
go ahead.
let me just work on this planet has everything to do with offering something we can do. And I've been getting a lot of flack in a certain forum that about how I'm not doing anything. And it's like, what I'm doing is offering this and trying to get co-creators willing to create this on our planet. If enough of us decide to withdraw consent from the systems, and that's plural, and do our best to get the free energy out into the open, which I know we have because my dad told me all about his work. And if we, get all of us on the same page doing things differently, the ones presently in power will have no power. So, that's what I'm trying to do here, is get us all together. And I don't care whether you're, what your belief system is. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what your favorite thing to do is. We all need to work on solving for the psychopaths that are in control on our planet. And by the way, you mentioned, or I forget who mentioned it now, but mentioned sociopathy. Sociopathy is one flavor of psychopathy. There's Aaron has a really good vid on his channel that goes into the various sorts of psychopathy there are, and sociopathy is but one flavor.
Yeah, well,
At any rate, I think I'm pretty much done.
Huh. All right. Well, look, if this is a fake, somebody did a good job.
Well, yeah.
So I just here a little bit further into this video, they show.
Wait. What is it that's impressing you about this thing?
Well, what's impressing me about it?
Yeah, I mean,
look,
this could all be CGI that you're looking. All you've really seen is the outside of it, and all the other pictures.
Okay, all right. Well, listen, I just found it again. This apparently appears to be an X-ray that was taken. So
CGI.
Or so we've been told.
I'm not saying it's not real, but I mean, I can see it both ways. It looks
absolutely.
Like,
I agree. I totally agree. I totally agree.
Be skeptical of these things.
I totally agree.
but can't you make me a sandwich?
I'm thinking, looking at the image of this thing where it's sitting there on the table and noticing the plastery stuff kind of all rubbed off, I would think that they would take more care of this if it was real than to have it losing its plaster.
You mean if they were actual scientists?
Yes, exactly. And this was an actual find. I don't, that plaster sitting on the table there, that I was looking at that going, why is that mess there? This shouldn't be how it shouldn't be leaving that kind of messy mess. If this is a real find and they're treating it as it should be treated.
Now, if we're questioning UFOs and aliens tonight, what about the Nazca lines? Like, how do we explain that they're only visible from the sky?
It's easily reproducible. They've already done experiments.
They were made to only be seen from above.
So they believe their gods are above. They're making presents, worshiping their gods.
Okay.
Well, yeah, but what prompted them to look up and worship something up there? People didn't just go, hey, I think we should look up there and worship something.
What prompted the Greeks to come up with Zeus?
Well, I think the same thing that prompted...
But when you look at the Nazca lines, it's all different kinds, like the parrot and the bear and the wolf.
You got straight lines, you've got perfect 90-degree angles, you've got converging lines, you've got thick lines, thin lines, and then you've got all of the geoglyphs of all the animals.
You and I could do that in an afternoon, any day.
I believe you're correct. I believe with just a little bit of preparation that anybody could really pull that off with not much difficulty and be pretty close to accurate.
You make the sketch and then you expand it.
Now this particular image I'm looking at, it doesn't, let me see, does it actually say X-ray? No, it doesn't. This could very well be an MRI, which, by the way, is going to be, no matter what, if it's an MRI, it's going to be a computer-generated image.
Yeah.
Even
Now,
X-rays are these days on the full-body X-ray scanners.
Yeah.
It's all digitized.
That's right. That's correct. So no matter what, it's going to be a CGI. It's going to be a computer-generated image no matter what. And we could all just sit back and say, well, that's just another batch of fuckery. Now,
This is kind of a problem in everything, though. You can't really
that's
know what's
sort
real
of
anymore.
that's sort of the point and the main topic for tonight's discussion when we finally start getting into it. Just while I'm picking this image apart here, that the two forearm bones for what looks like the right arm on the outermost overlapping arm, the right arm of this mummy, those two bones appear to me to either have been broken multiple times through this thing's lifetime, or that's just some lumpy ass fucking bone. It just doesn't look right. And I'm also curious as to the striations on the left. I can't remember the name of my bones now. It's the upper arm bone on the left arm.
The humerus.
The humerus. Thank you. So there's these, almost perfectly spaced, brown in color striations that, to me, are pretty curious as to why they would even be there. If it was an X-ray, you wouldn't see that unless they were literally hack marks on the bone that would show up in an X-ray. And if it's an MRI, MRIs tend, you have coloring options for certain, thicknesses and densities for the things that it detects. This thing has obviously been colored with a little bit of brown and a little bit of yellow, and I don't understand why. I don't know. I can't make sense of that. So I'm going to chalk this up as probably another batch of fuckery.
Yeah, I give that the highest probability.
I like what Sandra said in the chat. Skell ET and she emphasized ET and skeleton. That's cute.
Okay. All right.
Eeky, squeaky, skeleton humor.
Okay, enough of that. I mean, no, look, Gaia TV was there filming this with the supposed team of experts that
That's like 5 red flags on this play already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, exactly. And there supposedly the DNA testing is still ongoing, but they have said that they have identified it as a woman. And then at the same time on Gaia channel, and also Secure Team 10, they're calling this an alien mummy. So with a skull that has no sutures, creepy long three-digit hands and feet, that would lead a lot of people to think, yeah, that's an alien. Okay, but if it is an alien, then look, you know how DNA testing is done. It's done by comparison. Right?
Yeah.
It's by comparing it to known DNA. So if they did a DNA sample on this and they came back and said, yeah, that we can tell you right now that this is a female, I would like to know how the hell they did that, if in fact it is an alien.
Yes.
Yeah, Gaia.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing is fishy to me.
Gaia TV needs another ooh and ah moment.
Yeah. So speaking of media fuckery, what about all of these YouTube channels getting shut down here?
Yeah, thank you, Ian. Let's move forward and get on track here a little bit. Yeah, we've lost a lot of channels this week. The video that I posted just the other day that most of you guys have seen, 3 of the channels that I highlight in that video were all taken down apparently for the exact same reason, and that is because our crisis acting friend Chris Hurst is running for public office.
Oh, it's his month anniversary.
Yes, it's his month anniversary.
Yeah.
Anyone's familiar with the shooting hoax that he was involved in, the Virginia? Go ahead, Aaron.
Wait,
Yeah,
who
Ian,
are you
thank
talking
you.
about?
It was. We're talking about the Virginia, the WBJX or whatever.
Scalise?
No. The Virginia shooting hoax, the on-air of Allison
couple years
Parker
ago.
and
Oh,
Adam Ward.
The 2-take thing.
Yeah, the 2-take thing. with,
Yeah.
you know, Vester Flanagan shoots
Yeah.
Allison Parker, Vicky Gardner, Adam Ward. We don't need to pick the whole Virginia shooting thing apart. I just want to make the point that our friend, who is most likely a gay man, everybody thinks he's gay. Everybody's gaydar is up when they see this guy talk.
Gator.
This is the guy who ran around giving interviews the very next day. Within, I don't know, I think it was within 12 hours. Like, he must have went home and got his scrapbook and came back and started giving interviews holding the scrapbook of their month anniversary.
Robbie Parker?
No, Chris Hurst.
Chris Hurst, okay.
This was the one where the
boyfriend of
reporter
Allison
got
Parker.
shot on screen.
Oh, right. I'm thinking of Sandy Hook. Sorry. Oh,
Yeah.
too many
Yeah,
hoaxes.
Yeah, I know, too many. The
Yeah,
boyfriend of Allison Parker
Yeah. I remember.
was giving all these interviews, holding up his little scrapbook, saying that it was their month anniversary.
Yeah,
Well-
they just got engaged.
That little twat is now running for public office.
Ooh-wee.
Look at all the energy and power he got from the sympathy. That's all it was, a ritual to get him propelled into office. We could look at it that way.
Yeah, and now he's a household name, or to some extent he's a household name. He's fairly well known now. And yeah, you're right. He's going to get a lot of sympathy. He'll get plenty of sympathy votes. But we've lost a lot of channels. A lot of channels are getting copyright strikes like crazy this week. So I made this video highlighting several channels that had been either struck or terminated. 3 of the channels that I highlighted in that video were either terminated or copyright strike because of the same reason. It's because they put up videos exposing the Virginia shooting hoax or questioning the Virginia shooting hoax.
Yep.
And, right now, during this very moment, Chris Hurst is running for public office.
Yeah.
Now, I posted that video, and immediately came to my attention because my subs started telling me, oh, yeah, Franco lost his channel for the same damn reason. I think distorting our rhythm, I think he lost his channel for the same reason.
Maddie D.
Yep.
Matty D, well, I featured Matty D. Matty D, Robin, and High Impact Flicks, all 3 of those people lost their channels or got copyright because of the Virginia hoax videos that they posted.
Well, now that's interesting.
And then our friend RL commented and let me know that Franco lost his channel literally 2 days ago. And look, I featured High Impact Flicks, and he says in his video that it took him 2 years to strike that video.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Now Franco
started to say it.
Yeah, Franco had his video up for several months.
Yep. And then all of a sudden they're going through, and anything that brings up that jerk, they're copyright striking and shutting down channels over. Now, I mean, that's ridiculous.
It's a paid campaign. I can see they're totally connected. This guy running for office, he doesn't want people finding this shit out there that it's a hoax. So he either pays YouTube via sponsorship or directly, whatever. I don't know how it works. It then becomes, a violation of the community standards.
They're all Bilderberg members. Remember this. They're all going to the same meetings and creating this agendas for everything.
Right, and
Yep.
YouTube's part of it, and so is Google. I mean,
Exactly,
all of the companies, the whole internet is part of it. That's what everyone needs to realize. It's not like this company or that company. It's all companies.
It's
because
all
there's
of
only
them. They're all
a handful
going
of
to the
companies.
Same meetings.
Right, but there's only a handful of companies that handle all the data on the internet.
Right.
So and that's where you got to
Yeah.
look.
Doesn't it just funnel through the NSA first now, like everything?
That's what I heard. There's some giant D-Wave computer sucking it all in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, very likely. Let's see. Our friend, the conscientious objector, I featured one of his videos as well, and he was pointing out that there was some predictive programming in I think it was a 1993 television show regarding the Grenfell Tower fire, and their similarities are just jaw-dropping. And he said that the video that he put up was taken down within seconds. So obviously it's filtered immediately before it even posts.
Yes.
Yep.
But well, what's interesting is some of these other channels are experiencing old videos that have been up for as long as 2 years that are being taken down now, all happening this week. And I'm looking
Yep.
right now on Google here. Chris Hurst for delegate, Virginia House of Delegates, 12th District. Let me see, who was it? Pardon me. I think, was it Sandra was asking, why is this guy so important at the point to be able to take down so many channels? I'll answer your question, Sandra, because it's also the point that I want to make next, was that it's not him specifically or him as an individual. In this case, it's going to be supported by the party, whichever party he is running for. And I'm trying to get that Google to open back up.
But more
Well,
important,
whether it's the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, that's where the money, that's where the power behind this. They're not going to allow one of their candidates to run for an office with all this, you know, expose on the chicanery that's going on behind this character.
I look at it more though that he's controllable, completely controllable. That means he's some kind of puppet, and that's why he's getting into office.
That's spot on. That's absolutely correct. And that's why he's getting the support. That's why he's getting the support from the party. That's why we're seeing these channels being taken down, because it's not just some organic Joe Schmo who decided to run for public office. He has backers.
Let me just add one more thing to this. So we agree that there's automated processing that looks for these type of whatever. You know, it's very possible that when videos start getting more play that are older, that they go through that again if they haven't been through like the new set of rules.
Yeah.
And that's why they could have all gotten struck. It's
Right.
It's a possibility.
Well, sure. I mean, look, if you're running for office like this guy apparently is, you know, you're going to be getting commercials, you're going to get airtime, you're going to start getting a lot more attention. People are going to start looking you up. And when they look you up, the last thing the party wants is for, you know, the sleeping masses to jump on Google or YouTube and start seeing all these hoax videos with this guy's face plastered all over it.
See, this is the thing. Somebody needs to sue these media companies to make them prove this stuff actually happened. No one ever takes that legal step. The only thing that really
Well, you have
keeps
to,
them from doing it is
the hard part is proving injury,
Yeah.
right? In order to sue somebody, you have to prove injury.
mental anguish. Seeing a live shooting on TV, that's not good enough.
I suppose you could sue for, you know, trauma,
Well,
mental anguish.
That's what Wolfgang Halbig did on his angle. He was calling all the people that had visited his video or contacted him and saying, did you suffer any emotional stress, or did this, you know, affect you any way in your life, this Sandy Hook hoax, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
that
a great
was his
point.
angle that he wanted to legally come at them with, was the mental, emotional or mental injury. Anyway, I just needed to throw that in.
I was muted. I'm sorry. Yeah, I totally agree. That's, you know, there are many angles that one can go after people. Look at all the bullshit tort law that goes on every day.
Yeah.
Tell me you can't sue. Just even to bring light to it, other people will get ideas and maybe come up with a better way to have standing, as it were.
Well, you know, we often talk about solutions around here, and I think that's a good idea that we should perhaps consider a campaign, an online campaign to get people on board with a class action lawsuit.
Yeah, but what's going to happen is they're going to say, when it all gets said and done, CNN's going to be like, we never said that the stuff was true.
You know, you're right. And if you,
That's
this is
true.
something that I've noticed in a lot of these, if not all of the way they word their stories and their broadcasts.
Alleged.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
always alleged, official stories,
Sources
say.
tell us that. Intelligent
right.
sources.
It's all
say.
disclaimer language.
It's always hearsay.
It's disclaimer
Exactly.
styled, or
Hearsay.
the language is always geared toward releasing them from any ultimate responsibility of what they're putting out.
Correct.
Plausible deniability.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that what that's called? Plausible deniability.
Sort of. It's more covering their asses. You know what really alerted me to this was the class action lawsuit against the NFL for, I think it was for Deflategate, whenever the hell that was.
Yeah, because that's the real important stuff, right?
Well, no. What
I'm
happened?
I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm just
No,
kidding. Go
it's-
ahead.
Of zero importance to me, but the point was that the case was thrown out because on the back of the ticket it says, this is for entertainment purposes only. It's not a game. It's not a contest. It's a production.
Right.
And that's very true.
That's
Well,
why-
okay.
And I believe the same is of NBC and ABC and CBS and Fox. It's their productions. They're
Yep.
responsible to the sponsors. They need eyeballs. They don't have to report the truth ever.
Ever.
Nope.
They were
And with the
reconfigured in
NDA
the
law, with the Smith-Mundt Act.
Go ahead, Ma Wiz.
They
And
were,
that's
they were reconfigured in the 1990s after a reporter was suing Fox for making him report something that was proved to be false. So in the agreement to not find fault with Fox, it was kind of like as soon as they got out of the courtroom, they had to retroactively take all their news divisions and place them under the legal umbrella of entertainment.
Yep.
And so ever since that suit, which again Fox got out of because I guess they had a little agreement behind closed doors, they immediately placed all news under entertainment and has been that way ever since. So news has zero responsibility to be news, and they don't because of the legal umbrella that they have placed themselves under, and they don't have to tell you that either. I mean, it's part of the finding. It's in the public domain, you could read about that, and then you go, oh well, shit. If they're under entertainment, it means that they can tell us anything they want, based on what a story may or may not be. But most people are unaware of that. That's one of the reasons I'm speaking on it.
correct.
Great, excellent point.
And what else? Never mind. There was something else I wanted to add to that. Shit.
Well, I was going to throw in that Fox, when you started talking about the Fox News reporter that was going to sue Fox, before you finished, I was waiting for a chance to throw in there that Fox is listed on their own website as entertainment. So I don't know about the others. Perhaps they probably are now, based on the legal umbrella, based on that original lawsuit to protect all of their asses. They probably all switched over before they found themselves in court. But that's a great point. So, back to the idea of
that Fox News is owned by News Corp, the entertainment company owned by News.
Right.
I know what I wanted to say to the end of what Radagast said was that they do tell some news that's real because people demand that. They want to know what's going on, so they'll throw, local stuff out.
Okay. All right.
I'm not saying that's all fake, but stuff that there's no way you can possibly prove, like Syrian gassing people with sarin, like that was total nonsense.
Okay, now it's time for me to tell my story again. And Jerry, you probably haven't heard this. Radagast, I know you haven't. We've got some new people in the chat who may not have heard this story, and I'll try to be quick about it. Literally, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All the houses in my neighborhood are roughly 1 acre lots. So about 5 houses away from where I'm at right now is a Ryan's Tree Service. The owner I'm very familiar with. I get mulch all year long. I get mulch. Every year I get tons of firewood. And at least every other year I'm having the guys out here, cutting a tree down or two. A couple of days ago, I was literally helping their crews clean up my neighbor's yard. I've got video that showed the store damage and stuff. Anyway, they have a large lot to park all their vehicles, to keep their logs and their mulch pile and their firewood pile. And so they got a pretty good sized yard over there, and they have a travel trailer set up in the back that they have an agreement with some guy who stays in the travel trailer. He doesn't work on the cruise. He gets free, room and board in this trailer, and his job is to just keep an eye on the place at night after hours. Well, the guy went apeshit crazy, was talking about booby traps and stuff like that, and he ultimately got into a confrontation with Dennis and his son. The guy pulls a gun, shoves it right in their faces, and they manage to get him calmed down enough he goes back to his trailer. He's talking shit and hollering, and they're saying they're going to call the cops, and he says, go ahead, call the fucking cops, I'm ready for them. So they do. They call the cops come. There's a police standoff. There's no shots fired, but the guy ultimately firebombed. He set off the propane tank, killed himself, tried to kill the few cops. There was this big standoff. There must have been 25 or more cop cars blocking off the entire neighborhood in all directions. Helicopter. They had bomb squad. They had robots. The bomb robot and bomb squad dogs. And it was this huge freaking event. And I thought, okay, this is going to put my little town on the national map. You know what I mean? I thought this really was going to put us on the map. Well, not only did it not get picked up by national news, I was absolutely fucking shocked to find out that it wasn't even covered by local news. Now, this happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago, actually about 2.5. So in this day and age, you would think that something like that would have, look, you know, how many times people say, oh, the news is, you know, they sensationalize this. If it bleeds, it leads, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what, dude? I went down and I turned on my video camera and I interviewed a few people. I have video on my channel of street interviews that I did of the employees that were standing outside. And you could see the cops everywhere. You could see the dog. I'm not sure if I got the robot on video, but I've got proof that this happened. It didn't make local news is my point. It didn't even make local news.
Yeah.
Nobody died, right?
So
Yes, he died. He set off the propane tank. It exploded. It burned the trailer. It killed him. He tried to take out a few cops in the process as they approached the trailer. And after a long standoff, by the way.
Was it in the paper?
So, yeah, it was probably in the paper. No doubt there was a little blurb or an article. But this is the kind of thing that should have been lead story, for Christ's sake, at least in Atlanta, at least on local news.
Wouldn't you think
The
that
thing doesn't fit the agenda?
yeah, right. That guy's kind of anarchist against the system. He wants to kill cops. They're not going to highlight that unless it went down where the cops were the heroes. I think.
Yeah.
Well, maybe,
Cops
you
have
know, the hero aspect may have something to do with it. I can't say why for sure that it didn't, but, you know, make major coverage.
They might go, nah, don't run that story. That's, nah.
But my
right?
point is that this was a major
negative.
event. It was a real event. It's something the media could have really sunk their teeth in. They could have even spun the shit out of it like they do everything else.
But they probably have to get the police's permission, don't they? To what to
The
put on
media
it.
doesn't need police permission to post a story.
Maybe, you know, something else happened that we don't know about that, if investigated thoroughly by reporters or what have you, would be not, you know, conducive with their agenda.
Well, again, Jerry, they could have spun it.
Right, but by not mentioning it, no one knows, right? If they spin it, then people are going to be interested, and some people will look into it, just like you looked into the bridge collapse. That fucking happened, you know? And there were how many videos saying it was a hoax?
Well, there were aspects of it that suggest that it was not what they said it was.
I agree.
But it was certainly collapsed. There was absolutely a fire.
Right. And the lawyer who got shot, have you heard anything about her? How about the Red Mercury?
Yeah. We did a whole show on it.
Oh, I know. But I'm saying nothing has come of that since then.
No, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So the moral of the story is what, Aaron?
Well, the moral of the story is that if it's real, it doesn't make the news. Now, that may not apply to every story, but I've got one. It's a real one. I saw it happen. I interviewed people, and it didn't make the news. So we can speculate as to why it didn't make the news. You know, Jerry made a few good points. You know, there was no hero aspect. Maybe there was something going on that the police, maybe it was misconduct, and maybe they wanted to bury it. Maybe. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
What if the cop shot first and hit the propane tank?
No, that's sure. Well, there were no shots. I mean, I live close enough that there was no way anyone could have fired a gun over there and me not have heard it. I was outside when it all went down anyway.
Okay.
I was outside remodeling the RV, and my neighbor called and said, "You see what's going on at Ryan's? Look at the fire!" And I looked up over the trees, and you could see a big column of smoke. And we thought that their mulch pile caught on fire. And so I went down there, and fucking cops and fire trucks everywhere. So,
Bet you didn't have a P900 to zoom in on it.
And I asked two cops in passing as I was approaching, what's going on, and one cop wouldn't talk to me, and the other cop just said, stupid people. He said, crazy people doing crazy things, and then he walked away from me. He didn't want to talk no more. So that's all he said. Crazy people doing crazy things.
Hey, so what's the connection between that Chris guy from the Virginia shooting and the newest one at the baseball? What was the connection between?
I don't know if there. I'm not suggesting there is.
Yeah, I don't think there is a connection.
Ian, you're scratchy.
Am I? Yeah.
Somebody was scratching. I don't know
Probably.
who it was.
Rubbing his microphone.
Or I hit my microphone on my cheek. Yeah. Okay. So with this baseball psyop, Jerry, what's your overall opinion about that?
I think it
What do you think the
was.
psyop is? I'll be more specific. What do you think the psyop is on the agenda?
I think that's specific. There could be two things that I see. I see that it could have been a hit, attempted hit, but I think it was more of a warning to Scalise to stop trying to stop human trafficking, which is he's championing right now is human trafficking.
I think it's scripted. I think the whole thing is scripted, and the whole idea is to put fear into other people thinking that that's what's going on.
Go ahead, Radagast.
What do you think, Wiz?
I think there also, I mean, there was always multiple layers, and I think one of the layers is taking the temperature of the social atmosphere. And when we see the feral response, like, Scalise should have died, I mean, the absolute hate in some of the responses is able to tell people, oh, this keg is about to blow, just a little more gunpowder, and we're on. Because I think something what could be called almost a civil war is a desired thing because of the state of the economy.
Oh yeah, they definitely want us to rise up so that they'll have justification to put us down.
Well, you definitely hit the nail there, Wiz, when you said the economy, because do you believe that there will be an engineered economic collapse soon?
I don't know if it's going to be engineered. I think that the poor engineering of the economy itself is going to be like a badly built bridge that when the weight of reality finally rests on it, it's going to collapse.
When they lose control.
I think the whole thing was manufactured. I think they knew exactly what they're trying to do, because consider this. Right now, the ones who are in control of that system also own most of the metals on this planet. So if they collapse it, they'll still be in control.
Yeah.
As long as we decide we should be accounting for human energy added into a system that accounts for human energy, which is what money is of any kind, any token you care to mention, be it metals, shells, beads, trade, barter, work exchange, electronic bits, doesn't matter.
I think Radagast is probably closer to the truth. I think that the entire thing was a psyop. I don't think that it was an actual attempted hit. I've heard the stories. I've heard Liz Crokin. I've heard other people talk about how Scalise is on board with cracking down on the pedophilia trafficking rings.
Human trafficking.
But look, we tried briefly on last week's show. We talked about the cell phone footage that we probably have all seen of the guy walking his poodle, the white dog, and he takes the cell phone footage. He jumps on the ground from behind the fence, and you hear gunshots and little pings and whizzes, supposedly bullets, coming near and bouncing off of things. In the footage, you see people milling around, people with their hands in their pockets. So it appears that the gunshots were dubbed. Now, that's clearly speculation on our part. We don't know for sure. But what I do know for sure is that they are lying. And what I mean by that is Republican Representative Joe Barton gives a brief interview literally within the halls of Congress the day after. Might have been the same day, later that day, I don't know. But he's got his son with him. First of all, his son, this guy looks way too old to have a 10-year-old son. But okay, maybe he does. He says that his son was there with those guys when they were practicing. He says, we jumped into the dugout. Everybody was scrambling for cover. We were jumping under, all hiding. He was in home base dugout, and we were in the other dugout, and we all jumped in the dugout hiding. And he says, my son dove under an SUV. While another representative gave another separate interview stating Joe Barton by name and his son, saying that his son, we all jumped in the dugout and we shoved the kid under the bench. So we have two absolutely, completely conflicting stories that nobody could mistake.
Just like in Orlando.
The kid was either in the dugout or not. Unless somebody parked a fucking SUV in the dugout on top of a bench.
Right.
So, okay, the kid was under a bench and under an SUV at the same time. So that would be the only way that both those stories would line up. So we have two representatives that are telling pork pies. Their stories don't match up.
Well, it must have been that the SUV was parked in the dugout.
And then
But
we have...
you know what, though? Those guys got on TV.
What do you mean?
They got their face on TV, didn't they? You don't know if they were involved in it all. You're just hearing their story.
Right.
They could be. I talked about this last week. They could be like coattail riders. They see something happen and they run up. Oh, I was here. You know, and they don't know what happened. They just make some shit up just to get on TV.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm under the impression that they might not even have been there. From the cell phone footage, it looks like hardly anyone is there.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
You don't. There's one, it looked like a teenager who at some point sort of jogs and trots in front of the camera. Other than that, you don't see anybody running for cover.
Why isn't there any like street cam footage or?
I know, man. It's fucking, it's DC. We should be able to.
Yeah, every street's got those cameras.
You know, you brought up the Atlanta Bridge with that lawyer that was shot and murdered on the street, right? Do you remember, Jerry? They had, I don't know, at least four different camera angles of the supposed assassin as he ran away. And they tracked him down the block, took a turn, down the other block, took a turn, and they had all these different camera angles. He's running in alleyways, and yet they got him on camera.
Yeah, it was a private hit.
Well, my point is the cameras are everywhere. They show you what they want to show you.
Right.
You can't walk out your front door anywhere in this country without probably winding up on somebody's security camera, somebody's CCTV camera, traffic camera. I mean, do you remember the affluent kid, right? He killed those people.
Yeah.
And then him and his mom ran off to Mexico, and then they were captured in Mexico. And when they were captured, the news splashed yet again 3 more camera angles, and they were in some fucking street corner Mexican sandwich shop, and they had 3 images of these people on the street, walking in, going in, standing at the counter, and 2 different cameras from inside and 1 from outside on the sidewalk. You can't even fucking walk around in Mexico without being on 3 different cameras. So how come we can't get any camera shot of Seth Rich? How come we can't get any camera angles of the attorney being murdered? How come there's no other footage or no other cameras of, this baseball shooting, or for that matter, the fucking Pentagon, right? 9/11.
Yep.
Yeah, really.
So
Oh yeah.
I mean, there should have been hundreds of cameras on that. What do we get? Nothing.
There was probably satellite cameras on the Pentagon at all times,
Yeah, no doubt.
if satellites
Oh.
are real.
Yeah. That's another show.
Okay, well, check this out, you guys. We all know, probably everyone on this panel and probably everyone listening is aware of the CIA program known as Mockingbird, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Are you
Why?
guys aware of what the CIA's annual budget is?
It's a portion of the DoD budget,
Buttloads.
right?
It's got to be in the billions.
It's 15 billion
Yeah.
per year.
That's nowhere near as much as NASA, by the way.
Okay, that's fine. The CIA's annual budget is $15 billion. Now, I heard somewhere along the way through my research when we were about to have Jim Fetzer on and we were talking about fake news and I was looking up all the Project Mockingbird stuff. Somewhere along the way, it came to my attention, and I don't know if this is verified, but I heard that the CIA's a 25% of the CIA budget goes towards their Project Mockingbird, and that, probably obviously it's called something else today, whatever they're operating under, whatever banner name, code name, project name it's under today. Point is, it hasn't stopped. They have journalists, they have CEOs of news agencies, all kind of periodicals, publications, newspapers.
It's
Anderson Cooper.
Codename Turner Broadcasting.
Yeah, right. Anderson Cooper, right? So we know for sure. We know without a doubt. In fact, if anyone's interested, last week, John Rappaport did a 30-minute segment on Fade to Black on infiltration, where he talks about the CIA and their infiltration of the media. And, there's some good gems of information in there for anybody who wants to go check that out. I was thinking about playing part of that tonight. But the point is, we sit here as researchers, conspiracy theorists, right? Truthers, call us what you want. We sit here and we pick these stories apart. But ultimately, what are we doing is picking apart stories that are hand-fed to us by, most likely, the CIA and other agencies. And by the way, not only is the CIA $15 billion annual budget, which is the largest chunk of the U.S. Annual intelligence budget, but I also want to throw this out there. The total U.S. annual intelligence budget is, you ready for this? $52 billion.
Less than NASA.
Oh,
Incredible.
and that doesn't count all the freaking, I don't know how many hundreds of billions of dollars that they make, CIA in particular, off of being the largest drug running operation in the world.
That's what funds the Black
really.
Ops. But I was wrong about NASA. I was kidding, actually. Their budget this year was in like 20 billion, nothing more than 20 billion. I just want to say that life is a psyop. That's pretty much where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
pretty
hear
much
you, man.
everything is. It's just, you got to dig through it all and make sense of it all.
It's like everybody's got a little bit of the truth and the rest have none of it. Or I'm sorry, and the rest of it's just made up or extrapolated or conjecture.
Right. Or repeated.
There are a lot of echo chambers.
Yeah. On both sides. Like, it's just,
Oh, absolutely.
And
especially on the left. Like, I mean,
clearly, we're not dealing with idiots here. Very clearly, we are not dealing with stupid intelligence agencies. Hey, maybe this baseball shooting was, in fact, what some have suggested, and Jerry suggested, and Liz Crokin has suggested, that it was an attempted hit on Scalise. Maybe it was. Maybe all the bullshit and the fake stories and the stories that don't add up, like the story with Joe Barton, Representative Joe Barton,
That's
and
the sensationalization of it, yeah.
maybe these stories, well, look, we've talked about this before, breadcrumbs for truthers. Shit that just keeps people like us, those in society who question the official story, who don't trust the government. We're not new, okay? Just because the internet is here and there's a lot of people waking up these days, conspiracy theorists have been around forever. There's always been a subset of the society that doesn't believe the official story. They always know there's something else going on, and they always question things. There's always that group. So these intelligence agencies, they're not stupid. What if, and I'm convinced of this now, I'm wholeheartedly convinced that they throw out these little breadcrumbs. I call them breadcrumbs for truthers. And it's stuff like this baseball shooting. Maybe it was a real hit, and maybe they inject into the story breadcrumbs for truthers to keep those who would investigate, give them something to spin their wheels, chase their tails, and ultimately wind up going nowhere with the story.
Well, that's quite possible. I mean, they want to cover up, if they want to cover up the human trafficking and pedophilia and whatnot, then sure.
On one level, though, it's just distraction. And
I saw your post there, seeding the distraction engine.
Yeah, because by exactly what you said, by putting out there this potential rabbit hole, right? Everyone's going to go looking into it. What is that distracting us from? Well, the Seth Rich murder, the pedophile networks, in a way, but also in another way too. It's giving you a bone. Oh, it must be true because he got shot. It must be, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's against the pedophiles. It's not possible to parse all this into a coherent story.
No, it's not. Especially when practically all the information we ever get either comes from or is filtered through the intelligence agencies.
Yeah, right. And I just want to say too, I don't think that the intelligence agencies are bad, all 11 or 17 of them. 17. I think, again, there are factions within them, circles, brotherhoods, whatever you want to call it, that orchestrate this stuff. If it's even orchestrated, I don't really think the government's involved in a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's too organized. Have you been to the DMV?
Yeah. Well, I disagree in that I think that the people who are behind the government who are orchestrating. I mean, we know that the government is a corporation. It's not what they tell us it is.
Has that actually been proven?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know. I was asking. But even still, it doesn't matter. It still could be people within. But you're right. It's people above the government. It's not the government themselves. There would be too much paper trail. You'd be able to find it if it wasn't hidden behind national security.
Going to DC in many ways is like becoming a made man in a certain, gangster parlance. And so I think some of them might actually get there, technically, shall we say, virgins. But once they're there, it's like you either join the club or things will not work out well for you. But I mean, just observing even local towns, every town has its watcher, and they're usually no-name people who go to church, well-respected families. They often have a special room in their basement. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I agree, and you're correct. And
they're like that Zimmerman guy, right?
And they're usually very low-key people.
It's the old families who have gone dark. That isn't all families, but again, there's a network, and almost, I mean, maybe not in my little tiny town of like 500 people, but I mean, generally speaking, they're relatively quiet people, respected. Usually, if they're Jewish, they'll go to synagogue. If they're Christian, they'll go to a church. But they usually look like good citizens. They're at every town meeting, where people can speak, and they're there to watch.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. I want to say I've seen it firsthand. I can't confirm it, I went to a seminar, a convention in Florida where I met the world-renowned remote viewer Ed Dames.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, we had, so it was like it was a 10-hour event or longer. And we had several breaks, and we were outside smoking and having some drinks and chatting amongst ourselves. And we immediately, early on, we started talking about, okay, who's the plant?
Uh-huh.
And after that, and this happened early in the convention, and so we had hours and hours of hanging around and many
You didn't
breaks.
realize that you were talking to the plant.
Well, I think we figured it out. There was an old man who sat alone, and he didn't speak. He didn't take. Everybody was taking notes. They even handed out note paper and pencils in little folders. And some people brought their own, but everybody had something to write on. This guy didn't take any notes. He didn't speak. He didn't ask a single question. And I think we pegged him. And then at one point there was a younger man who was sitting in the back, who at one point I noticed, right as we were all released for yet another break, I noticed this young man walked forward. He must have been 8 or 10 rows behind the old fella. And I noticed as I was about to go outside that the young guy went right up to him, straight towards him, and knelt down, and they were chatting. So I went, oh, that's a little curious. How come you're sitting back there? You acted like he knew him. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, hey, and can I talk to you? It was more like, and I didn't hear. I couldn't hear a word they were saying, but I just found it very curious. So, and look, we also talked to Joseph Farrell, who I've mentioned already.
That was a great show.
Thank you. Thank you. It was the highlight of our little soiree here. Best interview I've ever had. But I did ask him on the show. We talked about agents provocateurs, and Farrell, who has been to numerous conventions as a speaker, I asked him, I said, have you guys been, infiltrated? And he, without missing a beat, oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And he knows.
Yeah,
In fact, he even said, he says, I'm currently reading about 200 books that, I check them out of the library and I order them online. He says, I sometimes have to order books having nothing to do with what I'm researching just to throw off the people that are, keeping an eye on me.
Right. Well, I feel that often these families, what we probably saw was somebody, in another part of the crowd, and then they were quickly comparing notes of like, okay, do we have anybody here that we need to mind? And I doubt either one of them would ever approach somebody. I'm quite sure what they do is maybe go to the chief of police or somebody else and let them handle it in whatever way. Or they have other, goons that might show up at your house and talk to you. I mean, again, there's usually a couple of degrees of separation. It's well organized. I mean, this is these are not a modern phenomena. These are probably going back at least to the formation of the corporation of the United States Corporation, and I think that's like in the late 1800s or whenever that was. Or right,
1871.
Huh?
1871, wasn't it?
That sounds about right. And
Yeah.
once that happened, I think they're gonna want to make sure that their corporation is as smooth running as possible. So they kind of have their human resource people, if you can, keeping notes on the employees.
Human capital now.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you guys familiar with the Woodrow Wilson quote that I'm about to read as soon as my computer will buffer here? He says, since I entered politics, I have chiefly had men's views confided in me privately. Some of the biggest men in the United States in the field of commerce and manufacture are afraid of something. They know that there is a power somewhere so organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, so pervasive, that they better not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it.
Familiar with that quote? Very.
Sounds like a reworded Orwell quote.
Oh, that's attributed to Wilson.
No, I know, but I heard something else that was a lot like that. I'll think of it.
Yep. And to me, the best, with the government, if we could get the people unstupid, and with our nice handy little Second Amendment, there could be some cleanup, but the government doesn't want to release its monopoly on violence, which is one of the big things of government, where, rather than people handling things locally, oh, no, it has to be condoned by government. Where the average neighborhood, of good people, if you had a troublemaker, there's all kinds of ways of, handling them, from anywhere from with lethality to, a couple of lumps. But the monopoly on violence is a way of disempowering people.
Well, then that's just the New World Order's agenda plan anyways, is to create so much violence and chaos that we'll beg.
Well, we have to beg them because we're not allowed to deal with it ourselves. And everybody goes, oh, vigilantes. Well, look, in certain communities where you have a bunch of knuckle draggers, it'd probably be scary. I would recommend nobody living there. Let them kill each other. But go ahead.
I just want to throw in there, what's also interesting is that a lot of these liberties they take with us and our rights, we never gave them the authority to, they never had the authority to use that, to take that from us.
Well, in a way you're right, but in a way you're not. It's through our silent acquiescence that gives them the authority.
Obviously, but I mean on paper. For instance, gay marriage, right? We never gave them the authority to govern our marriages, but they took it.
Yeah.
They have no right to say this is legal or that's legal, because marriage isn't in the Constitution, and all they do is, operate under that piece of paper.
Yeah, they operate under the Universal Commercial Code of marriage being a certificate where you're a corporation as a married couple.
But that starts with the church.
Uniform Commercial Code.
I get all that.
Commercial Code, sorry, uniform.
On the surface, though, there's nothing, unless your birth certificate and social security number, which I do know put you in the system. I'm not saying I don't acknowledge that, but, there's nowhere it says, that you give us the right to govern who you marry. I never signed a contract like that.
Yeah, I never signed a contract to be governed.
Well, we were bamboozled into that hundreds of years ago.
The church is the one that started that, because at one time the church was the one that recognized it. My own mother was excommunicated from the church when she divorced her wife-beating husband.
But I was just using that example. I mean, you could pick anything, really. Just about.
Let's go back to traditional societies. That's where, what now is considered a Wiccan tradition is the hand fasting. And what the hand fasting was you got together with your people in your community and you made an agreement with the person, and you had the society witness it. And, you were actually conducting a public contract with another person that the society recognized, and would probably do everything to support it. And especially if they gave you a bunch of gifts and then you decide, oh, we're done, they might come back looking for their gifts. I mean, the traditional marriage was a social contract. And the church, of course, one of the first, the church's big thing was to break the traditional ways. And that's why they, went on an extermination campaign. And when they traumatized enough people who felt like there was no way out, then they then they finally said, something, maybe we'll try the salvation of Christ stuff, because there's no salvation any other way anymore. It's really a very, very ugly system, and it's mind warfare. And part of it, I feel that we don't get out of it until we go back to before it started and realize that we weren't savages, that all the megaliths were built prior to that time. So it's clear we weren't savages, and we have to reclaim who we are on this planet before this mind virus got started. And, we won't point any fingers right now.
So back to the topic about
I'll point fingers.
About the censorship and whatnot on the internet.
Well, regarding
where
the
do we go from here? You know,
I think we're all left scratching our heads, Ian, because look, Sandra in the chat mentioned something just a moment ago about if you know if you're not in charge of any movement, nothing is going to happen. And she said, I mean, you know, how do you join thousands of people against the government or media? Look, the reality is, I don't know, because without some form of centralized decision making in any given movement, be it revolutionary or otherwise, any movement whatsoever, ultimately will be subverted. The only way is to have a general consensus among the population who is aware of the situation, at least relatively awake to what's going on, without following any one particular person or small group of people giving directions.
Right.
It needs to be a purely organic movement. Otherwise, it'll be, and even then, we're even more susceptible to being subverted.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get started.
The reality is that I don't see any way out of this. I think that the powers that should not be are already too well entrenched. They already have all the guns, they have the media, they have the schooling, they have literally everything in place to ensure that no movement rises, that no revolution takes place. No one person is going to do anything significant on their own. This isn't going to happen without masses of pitchforks and torches. And the only way that's going to happen is mass awareness. And we can't even get mass awareness because, look, we're starting to make headway. Obviously, we're making some headway. Otherwise, we wouldn't be losing channels. They're dropping like flies this past week and a half, right? They have the power to just shut you off, blame it on anything, the community guideline, copyright. You try to appeal it, you get fuck all. You get nothing. And as an individual, you're powerless against the system. Now, we have power as a group, but the group doesn't know what to do without direction. And if we ever get to the point where this movement has direction, it'll be subverted.
Well, Aaron, I keep thinking that if all of us just withdrew our consent, and when we encounter the bullies, don't create controversy by refusing. I know I've said this before, and I will say it again. It has to be something that we each individually make a choice to do. And if we run into these people, if we run into these people, we just say, hey, y'all have at your system, but it doesn't apply to me unless you can prove that it does. If you prove I am subject, by all means, I'll be more than happy to be subject. But in the meantime, I'm going to be going on about my business. And I think, pardon me, I think that when enough of us are doing that, they will have no power.
Well, I think a really good example has been like one or two of these mayors who say, we're going to have our own sanctuary city. So this goes to show us the power that a mayor thinks that they have. So if a mayor has that power, that means that the citizens, whoever that mayor is, are the real power if they could get organized. And we don't need torches and pitchforks in America. We're locked and loaded, baby.
Well, if you look at Edward
Snowden, the metaphor, though.
Sorry.
Yeah,
if you look at Edward Snowden, right? Like, whether you believe that he's a psyop or not or whatever, it shows that one person can make a lot of difference.
But What we really, it's about localization. I mean, yeah, they're shutting down YouTube. That's the cyber community. It really is going to come down to localized organic communities. And to me, the fact that this mayor said, "Oh no, we're going to do whatever we want, and the federal government can't do shit about it." Well, that's just a really good example of just how much power we could have locally. But how many of us are going to town meetings in our local communities? You know, to take America back is to take it back village by village and town by town. But we do have the media running interference because they do fear the fact that the populace is locked and loaded. So now they know if we have town meetings, we're going to be yelling at each other rather than yelling at the real idiots. And it's until we decide, we have to know what we want from each other as a society, and stop identifying with political parties altogether. A good idea is a good idea. A good idea for all of us should be something we can all agree on. And we should, to me, there are certain hot button issues that are very emotional that are like, that's a private decision. And one of these things is what a woman does with her body. Making that a political issue is a bunch of bullshit to me.
I agree with you on that. The problem that we have here is that these mayors, they are CEOs of corporations. There is no government entity on our planet at this point that is not a corporation. And we do not have the power in these corporations. And also, I don't know about taking America back. America is just one set of imaginary lines that the psychopaths in control have painted upon this planet to divide us. This really would best be a global movement to another system. I do suggest a system. I suggest ethical anarchy and a solutocracy. And lots of people ask me what a solutocracy is, and it's basically solving problems ethically as they arise, as opposed to passing laws in case a problem comes up, which I think is ridiculous, because then you require people to enforce these on people, whether there's a problem or not. I mean, some guy sitting in his living room smoking a joint is not creating a problem, but they can bust your door down and arrest you for it because it's illegal. And then the whole legal system is set up to thwart ethics far more than it serves them. I mean, they've made it legal to propagandize us. They've made it legal to put GMOs loose on our planet. They've made it legal to do all kinds of things that are highly unethical, but they're legal. And I don't consent to the whole legal system. I don't consent to it at all. I consent to the 3 laws of ethics. And those are really the only laws that there are, because without them, society would not exist.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gemini.
God made man and man made government, in that order.
That's right.
Yes.
And I think that the very word legal and law is part of the Patriarch's trap. We didn't have laws. We had ways. We had agreements at a societal level, and somebody stepping out of those, the way we did things, could result from anything from being ostracized or worse. But really, the law and legality is a foreign installation into our minds. We had ways. I just think of the difference between the law and the Tao, or the way. And the way is in harmony with nature. Laws are not in harmony with nature, and we derive from nature. There is a lot of psychological work that we need to do on ourselves to first be able to free our psychology so that we can free our bodies to act on it.
Well, I agree there. I'm just going to say I use the laws of ethics. I call them that, but really people, some call them natural laws. Some people call them
it's a mind
other
fuck,
things.
Though.
But I just use it because people today understand the word law as to mean something that you should follow. You know, the 3 laws of ethics are basically do not willfully and without fully informed consent hurt or kill the flesh of another. Do not willfully and without fully informed consent take or damage that which does not belong to you alone. And the third one is do not defraud another, which can only happen without fully informed consent. And if you take those 3 laws and call them postulates, call them whatever you want, without those 3 things, society cannot function.
All right, I'll just, here's an example of the mindfuck of the word law. We have what are known as the laws of physics. All right, they're not the laws of physics. It's the way physics behaves. It's the way of physics.
I agree, but I think we're arguing semantics.
No, because it's the mind virus. I'm telling you that these concepts, if we don't break from them, we're locked into them.
Well, what would you call them? The three thingies of ethics.
Well, how about the 3 agreements? They could be agreements, contracts, social contracts.
Well, that's
It's commerce, not contract.
those 3 agreements are I think, as you were pointing out earlier, Radagast, about the other cultures before this law and legality ever came into being. It was, it was agreements among groups of people that it all falls back to as Amy points out, the 3 laws of ethics. Because I mean, you could literally go anywhere in the world, any culture throughout time, and you'll find those 3 laws that Amy constantly refers to embedded in that culture. And ultimately, it boils down to you don't hurt people, you don't take other people's shit, and you don't damage their property.
Yeah, I believe that's our natural understanding. That's part of who we are and where we derive from. And what's interesting, like you said, if you go all over the world and you find that everybody agrees about these laws, what we find is that the law is an insertion into agreements. It's an accretion, and it's a parasitic accretion, and it's an imprisoning one.
Well, there's a chat going on and there's a little conversation going on in the chat box that I think I might want to throw forward here, referring to law. Blue Blood asked a question I think he already knew the answer to. I think it was more rhetorical. He said most lawyers are Jewish, aren't they? And I said no. However, all law is the result of Jewish or Judaic law. Jerry pipes up and he says admiralty law at the core. Jerry, I think I would like to correct you, and I may be wrong, but I think that the Judaic law is older than admiralty law. Admiralty law comes out of Judaic law.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I meant our court systems all run on admiralty law.
Well, it is. Currently, it is. Currently, it is.
Well, take two words, Tao or Tao, which means way and the ways of nature, or Torah, which means law. Right. And this, and then take out the RH or the monkey controlling factor, and you have way. I mean, again, I don't want to point fingers. I don't want to get into this whole Jewish thing.
I agree. I know. I've
We all
got
have to agree in one thing, that the current system we're under is a Zionist-controlled system, right?
Hang on.
I mean,
go ahead, Rad.
Pretty much run by the Zionists that are,
Currently
that
today,
have a grip on the banking system, right?
Well, today that's true, Ian. Absolutely. But Radagast, please finish your thought.
Well, the thought is when the inception point of this, what I consider to be a mind virus, entered. And it enters when you, like the laws of Hammurabi, which were really kind of coming to the end of the Anunnaki period. But I mean, the mystery, again, we're going back to the mystery schools that go back at least 6,000 years. And actually, they're probably even into the Neolithic. There is a history of ours that is completely covered up.
Yes,
and a big part of covering it up is so we don't discover how we used to live and how we didn't live through laws. Laws were imposed upon by power, and then part of it was trying to one of the things was that these laws are divine laws. And so then that makes you think that not only do you have to worry about a policeman seeing you, what if God sees you? So there is a psychological, what I consider mind virus aspect to the whole legal and law system that is divorced from nature. And that's why you want to look at things like the laws of physics or the laws of thermodynamics and realize what we're doing is we're looking at the natural organic way physics behaves or thermodynamics behaves. And especially in thermodynamics, it has a lot to do with homeostasis. But these are not laws. These are ways. This is the way we're observing the divine or the creation and how it behaves. And it behaves in an orderly fashion because that's how you don't have chaos. And I'm one of the things I'm just really trying to get to people to understand is language is the spell woven upon us. And if we don't crack language and how we use it and what's behind it, we will not crack the spell.
Well, we're on board here, so we know all about around here. This panel is very well informed.
Political correctness is like a giant part of that too.
And it's interesting that the word spell, we use that word to describe how we lay out letters in order to construct words. It's a spell, and at the same time, in witchcraft, you cast a spell. So it's a double mind fuck that we are under a spell by the spelling of our words and by as you said, the way we use our own language.
But our language invokes visualization. If I'd say everyone think of an orange, you can't help but think of a fucking orange right now.
Right.
It's there. I just did magic on you.
That's right. You did.
Do not think of an elephant.
That's right. It's a form of lesser magic. And we talked earlier about how our consciousness creates our reality. And if you can get groups or large masses of people to engage in one particular thought process, then it magnifies the effect of this form of lesser magic, helping to manifest whatever it is you're trying to create.
And not being...
Go ahead, Jerry.
I was going to say, and the lack of critical thinking that the population enjoys today also doesn't help.
In the pre-literate times, and some of the highest civilizations, even the Druids, did not have a written language per se. Gaelic was only turned into a written language to preserve it. But this is the whole thing: is there was once upon a time where everything was oral tradition. Our history was kept orally. What is very interesting about let's take Torah or the Ten Commandments. Let's just go down to 10 Commandments. Not only were they written, they were written in stone. And even now, when laws get passed, are they done verbally? No, they're written down. So this is another part of the spell. What is written? Even sometimes somebody might say something, and they go, "Where is it written?" and fill in the blank. Where is it written is the question. Not where is the ethics of it, where is the agreement of it, but where is it written? So again, this whole written law is its own spell binding.
That reminds me of an ancient Chinese proverb, which I can't quote exactly, but the gist of it is, demons feared man the day they learned how to spell their names.
Wow.
No, demons gave us spelling.
But when we learned the names of the demons and could write them down,
okay.
That was the gist of the quote. I see I blew it. But
that's because that is their magic. Spelling is their magic. And that's why if we learn that that's their magic, we can use it against them. But do we want to use it against each other? And that's what laws are, using it against each other.
We're kind of being forced to use it against each other because it's being used on us.
Let me try to define the difference between lesser and greater magic for the benefit of the person in the chat box, Cy Borgeson, who asked what makes magic lesser or greater. And again, I'm not an expert. I could be wrong. I'm under the understanding that lesser magic is, as I described earlier, that like Amy said, or who was it you said, if I said orange, Jerry, you automatically think, boom, your brain conjures an image of an orange. If I said I was at the London Bridge the other day, or I was at the Eiffel Tower the other day, you can't help it. Your brain automatically conjures these images. So understanding that the brain or the mind operates on electromagnetic frequencies, and that our consciousness helps to co-create our reality, that if you think of something, then the manifestation has a much greater probability. So that would be lesser magic. It's not obvious, it's not visible, it's not tangible. I would assume, and again, I could be wrong, I would assume that the term greater magic in conjunction or juxtaposed to lesser magic, greater magic, I would assume would be something more akin to Harry Potter.
All right.
Where it can be seen, it can be visualized, it can be tangibilized. If I have a magic wand, say I had a real one and it worked, then I could shoot laser beams, I could turn you into a newt, and although you might get better, ha ha ha.
But they're only 14-year-old kids. It can't be greater magic.
No, I'm only...
I would say greater magic, in your terms, is more like ritualistic, high ritual, high ceremonial magic is what it's really called, ceremonial magic.
I consider the lesser magic when you're working with nature, and that would include divas and elementals, and you work with them. You befriend them, and you get there. And first of all, part of why it's a magic is because you're working with the unseen. You're working with things that don't have physical bodies. But again, you're working with nature, and working with nature is following the Tao. If you're working with nature is if you take your boat and you want to go, you go downstream before following the tides. Greater magic is when you start trying to impose your will at the simplest level. When you're trying to use your will against the way. Basically, a motorboat going upstream is a form of greater magic. So, I mean, so for me, the lesser magics are the passive or working with and forming agreements in what's already kind of happening. It's kind of like I'm getting ready to plant carrots. Why? Because we have a waning moon. I'm going to wait for the rising moon to plant my leafy vegetables. That's a form of lesser or passive magic.
Okay, but I had to walk away for a minute there. I think you're correct there, Radagast. I think that's probably a better explanation that I had. I just want to add here that Sandra in the chat box said magic only works on people who believe in it. I'm going to strongly disagree with that. And in a small proof of that is the thing that we had already covered, that if I said Eiffel Tower, your brain conjures an Eiffel Tower. And if you don't think that magic works on those who don't believe, assuming that you're one who does not believe, I would ask you, have you ever in your life watched a commercial and then thought to yourself, or followed up by purchasing that particular product? Because I have.
I've never.
You've never ever in your life saw a commercial?
No.
Because I mean, I'm not one that's real susceptible, but I mean, on occasion, like I'll give you a silly example: pistachios. Okay, I love pistachios, but I don't eat them very often. And I don't know, it was a couple of years ago this actually happened, and I noticed, and I caught myself doing it. I saw a commercial for pistachios, and I went, I could go for some pistachios. And the next time I was at the store, I bought pistachios. Okay. So there you go. If you can make someone think of something, if you could subjectively get someone to, if you could implant an idea or a thought in their mind, one way or the other, then if they act on it in any way, then it works. So you don't have to believe in magic for it to work. Right? What?
Right.
Correct. You do not need to believe in it. Your belief doesn't matter. It doesn't make it not real. Your disbelief.
Yeah.
You could still have a hacks done by a voodoo priest and have a jinn fucking with you.
Yeah.
Well, somebody said something interesting about a lighter. If you put it in front of, of somebody who doesn't know what a lighter is, it's magic. A lighter is magic. I mean, the creation of fire is the invocation of the fire elementals. And I make it a real habit of mine to, more often than not, even when I'm using my lighter to light a cigarette or to light my incense, which is often for the sylphs or the air spirits, that I am thankful for the kind of interruption of calling them into reality in such a sudden way. The creation of fire was a great gift, and our modern civilization is based on it. But think about the difference. The technology, even if you're just rubbing a stick into another stick to create the heat, or you're striking something, you're still creating the conditions to invoke fire, which is not a naturally occurring thing unless lightning strikes. I mean, fire is relatively rare, or else the whole planet will be on fire. So
thermodynamics.
Beg pardon?
Thermodynamics.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So yeah, I mean, it's natural in the way that fire does exist on its own. Volcanoes erupt, lava, comes in contact with tinder, forests, leaf litter, boom, fire. Lightning makes fire. So yeah, fire is natural in that sense, but you're right. It by invoking or creating it on your own.
It's a magical technology.
Who was it that said, was it Orwell or Manly P. Hall that said
Arthur C. Clarke.
Any technology
Any advanced
That's
technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah,
Right.
any sufficiently advanced technology
sufficiently advanced, thank you,
is indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah, that was Arthur C. Clarke.
Arthur C. Clarke, right, thanks. TJ Trusty said, hell, gravity is magic if you think about it. It is actually, because we gave it a name, we call it gravity, but they still don't know what it is.
It's a theory.
Well, it's not a theory.
It is a theory.
What's a theory is how it works.
It's a theory.
It's not theoretical to
It is.
hold your hand out and let go and have things drop to the ground.
There's a phenomenon that occurs, but what they call gravity is theoretical.
It's a phenomenon based on an unseen force.
Yes.
It's an unseen force. It's a real thing. That doesn't make it a theory. It's a real thing. It exists.
In the laws of science, it's not a law.
Gravity exists, but how it works is still a mystery.
Right. How it works is a theory. The fact that it exists doesn't mean that's not the theory.
That's not what I'm saying. But
okay.
Science looks at it as a theory. It's not a law. It does exist.
Yeah, but
what it is, we don't know. But if you look at Newton's gravity has been merged with Einstein's now, and it's all still a theory.
Yeah, the original Greek word that theory comes from, and I don't remember, I don't want to mangle it, but the original word of theory is to behold. So when you're observing something and you develop an idea, you're beholding it, and so it's really kind of interesting when we get into some of the languages. And Greek is really, probably one of the few languages on the planet that will help us dispel certain things. I mean, look, we had the conversation last night on Moose's thing about the clunkiness of the word love in English. Now I'm aware of three. I'm actually aware of four. The fourth one is kind of a weird one. It's the love you would feel for, like a slave would have for their master. They have a word for that.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah. And yeah. And but you know, I mean, there are other words, but the three basic ones are, you know, erotic love or eros, brotherly love or philos, and then this love of all, or this love, the awesomeness of understanding love is kind of like the what or the wisdom of the universe.
The
That awe,
agape.
agape, exactly, that's the word. And so in English, when we're saying, you know, like love holds the world together, well, you know, eros, you know, if a marriage can break apart, well, eros isn't very good. If brothers can fight or friends can fight, philos isn't a very good glue. It's when we're talking about that awe-inspiring, you know, universe-encompassing love, we are talking about agape. But the English language is, you know, again, English is built a lot out of German, and there are dialects in German that don't have a word for love. Oh my God! So we're really bereft, even in English, of a language that isn't, I mean, not to mention some people call Angle, you know, from Anglo-Saxon, or the language of the angels. And I had some theories about those angels.
I do too. Let's go with it.
Well, then we would get into kind of like Gnostic concepts. Now, much of the, you know, most of the Gnostic literature we have now is either what came out of the 1st century AD, which is Gnosticism on the decline, or I don't even like to say the Gnostic way of life on a decline. And it was also starting to get conflated with, you know, at that time it would be Judaism and the emerging Christianity. So, and they were under a lot of pressure. They will also, again, the thought crimes. Part of religion is it creates thought crimes, and there were, you know, the whole concept of gnosis is that it's kind of like a mysticism, or what does, you know, like maybe what the Sufi. We'll pick on the Sufis for a second, but just the understanding through communion with the creation, with the actual creative force, and understanding that. And so there is no thought crime in that system. It was when laws started getting written down. And so anyway, let's say the systems that created thought crimes are, to me, the systems most associated with the angels. And so I'll open it. I'll leave the discussion there to kind of like put your own imaginative insertion, and the chances are your imagination just might guide you in the right direction.
The frequency of the angle of that star that is the angel directs that thought.
I was going to suggest, since we've really got about 25 minutes to go here, this subject in particular could go on and on. And since Jerry is going to be doing a Hive show right after this, I suspect you'll probably be involved, and I'll probably come hang out with you guys. Maybe we could get into it over there. I would love to get into that with you, Radagast.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But really, let's spend a few more minutes on this concept of what really is truth, and how do we get to the point. How do we suss the truth, particularly when the vast majority of anything that we know comes from sources that are highly questionable at best. You know, we sit around, we pick apart these events, and we call them hoaxes and false flags, and we point out all the errors and stories that don't match, etc. How, you know, I'm just so fucking sick of doing that.
Me too.
Yes, I'm getting really tired too.
I am absolutely fed up with trying to call another hoax and trying to find where they made a mistake on this news story or that story. I'm fucking sick of it. I am flat out tired of it.
Yeah.
You can't even keep up to them because there's so many.
Well, we've busted it already. Now it's old news. It's time. I mean, and again, it's always about what they have done to us. What are we doing for each other? And our focus has to start turning more inward and more about what have we done lately instead of what have they done lately. It's always about them.
That is such a good point. Thank you. I'm so glad that I said that so that you could say that, because that's a fantastic point. What have we done as opposed to what have they done?
When when they see us sweating or even arguing over what they're doing, they're that puckered asshole in that we call the great eye is smiling.
Yeah, it feeds their energy.
Now, what we need to do is get them having these discussions in their tiny little groups that they are going, oh my God, have you heard what they're doing lately? I mean, let them shit their pants for a while. Matter of fact, let them shit their pants until they're gone.
I'm hoping that that's what they're doing relative to my work. I don't know that it's, I'm working on getting it to a tipping point in awareness. And in case you're interested, my work is posted at my forum, which is called tapyourit. And the address is tapyourit.boards.net, and that's YOURE, properly spelled.
Okay.
tapyourit.boards.net. And
Plug.
absolutely, I'm going to plug it because I'm trying to solve for the problem of psychopaths in control.
Just
Oh, I
kidding
know.
with you.
I know, and I'm going to kid right back.
Well, I even think the word sociopath, path comes from pathology. It is a, let's call it a virus, or, it's a pathogen. So a sociopath or sociopath is somebody in society that is creating illness or disturbance in the societal fabric. And so then if a sociopath can have any effect on society, it's because the immune system of society is obviously not functioning well. Because just like, a well-functioning immune system in our body, when a little when a small dose or a little bit of a pathogen comes in, it knows how to handle it. We as society have lost our immune systems, and that's why sociopaths thrive, because there isn't an immune response. Part of that is the monopoly on virus, because the proper immune response is you have somebody in your neighborhood who is showing illness, and they get a visit, and they either straighten out, or the Louisville Sluggers come out, and we give them some time out.
Right.
Can I make a point on why we have psychopaths in control? The psychopaths put into place several systems that promote psychopaths and retain psychopaths in control. And those particular systems are money system. Money systems promote psychopaths because they are the ones that are most drawn to the power over others that money can provide. Also, we have top-down control mind, is what I call it. Most people call it government, where when you have some being given power over others in a governmental situation, you also draw psychopaths, whether they're sociopaths or other kinds of psychopaths. And so I'm saying we need to stop consenting to these top-down control mind systems, these money systems, accounting for human energy in any way, because we no longer need it. I know we have free energy. There is absolutely no doubt about that, but the psychopaths, knowing that free energy makes accounting for human energy pointless and would end the need for money, keep free energy very well hidden. And that's why they avidly suppress and hide every advancement that would offer that.
Well, let's think about somebody who actually figures out the science and creates a free energy device in their garage. What do they do? Do they immediately hand it out, or do they go and try and get a patent on it?
Mostly they go and try to get a patent, and that tips
that's where they fuck us, because they're breaking the social contract. They're going to the legal system to secure their goods rather than sharing it with their community.
Plus,
Absolutely.
The patent office is a gateway, basically. It stops things from getting out.
Free energy belongs to humanity. It doesn't belong to, you know.
The kind of free energy that we could generate won't run the types of appliances we have today. That's one issue.
Well, that's not true. I don't know if you know. I don't know.
Power battery.
I don't know if you know about electrogravitics.
I do.
But if you look into it, you can create little electrogravitic devices that will run a generator. Okay. In fact, I go into electrogravitics on my site under the thread title, the Abundance Paradigm Foundational Writings.
So what's involved in building one of these things? Let's build one.
Well, you need a small negative, I think they're electrode, and a large, maybe umbrella type shape positive electrode. In between, you need a very high K nonlinear dielectric to get maximum thrust out of the system that you're producing. However, the big problem is that the really super high K dielectrics are very, very expensive. And those are the ones that you kind of need, and they keep them in black projects. I know that electrogravitics, for the most part, was drawn into black projects because when my dad was working on it with T. Townsend Brown, he came home and told us we couldn't talk about his work anymore. We couldn't even say the word electrogravitics because they want it secret for now. And that was in 1959.
Oh yeah, this stuff's been around for ages.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's stories going back to the 1800s of like the NIMSA and the Sonaro Aero Club.
Yeah, that was the last.
Oh, yeah.
That was the last of the good Illuminati because they actually wanted to share it, and I actually think that they actually might have been part of a benevolent breakaway civilization that largely left for their own sanity and lives.
I think it was it Walter Bosley who talks about them?
Oh
NIMSA?
yeah, he's brilliant on that.
Yeah. He says that the good ones are there's two groups. There's NIMSA and then there's the 1901, and those are the good guys, if I remember correctly.
Well, the fact that they were demonstrating it publicly, and these were from what we would call elite as far as wealthy families. Yeah. But they were engineers. I mean, these were good guys. They were humans. That's the big thing. Humans will share with each other.
They had no MBA.
Yes.
I think the MBA is the big programming, the psychopath programming.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, well, all of that is part of the psychopath system.
You know, people used to grind their wheat or whatever grain they had, and usually these mills were right by a river or a strong flowing stream, and they would use the stream to move paddles that would move the stone. That was free energy.
Well, that's a form of free energy too. Yes.
And I was just saying, you can't use that to like make your fridge run. And
well, fresh food, if we ate only fresh food, we wouldn't need refrigerators.
Agreed. But I mean, these are all steps. We have to take baby steps to get to the future.
Do you know what the refrigerator is called and apparently in French, or one of the colloquial terms? Le morgue.
Well, yeah, because they used to refrigerate the bodies.
Well, no, it's because where food goes to die.
Okay.
I thought that was Food Lion, that store. That's down here in Georgia. That's where it goes to die.
We have food. I went to Food Lion today.
Dude, they have a lot of expired foods. That's all.
Yeah, I bought my aloe plant there.
I have no problem with expired foods, by the way.
I only have expired food problems if they're like moldy.
Yeah, or eggs. Eggs could go like 2 weeks later, but that's, fresh stuff like that. Yeah, you know when it's moldy. I don't need someone to mind control me into buying more. That's all it is.
Thanks for the thing on theory there, Jerry. That's excellent.
On what?
You posted in the group chat here about theory, and that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So do you guys think that on the internet, with all the censorship going on and all the, we have Theresa May standing up in front of the world saying we have to crack down on the internet and whatnot. Do you think everybody's just going to end up just giving up, or do you think what do you think will happen?
The screws are going to tighten until we push back. That's the way it's going to go. Period.
I'm afraid this is a losing battle. I think there's going to be blood no matter how it turns out.
Well, I'm working on making sure that doesn't happen.
Depending on which side spills more blood, then it won't be a losing battle.
Correct.
Well, I don't know about you, but I've looked around and I've not seen any button that would detonate a nuke or set off a bioweapon. And the last I checked, I don't have a radio that would call into action the National Guard or the police or the SWAT teams. And I'm pretty sure I don't have a bazooka around here or a rocket launcher. And I'm certain that there's no Bearcat parked in my garage. So
the Chinese are on record as saying they would never think of invading the United States because
there's a gun behind every blade of grass.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if a foreign military is afraid of us, why wouldn't, I mean, and then what part of if there was actually a real collective will, do you not think many of the people who stand with them might not stand with us? Well, I mean, they're going to stand with the winners, basically.
We'd manifest an instant force field around us.
Okay, well, yeah.
It would be like a flash of light and be like,
well,
what the fuck is happening?
I know that you guys have, imagined all kinds of scenarios. We all have. If they crash, let's say, for instance, they pull off some event, they call it an EMP. Maybe they call it a solar flare. Maybe it is a solar flare. Maybe it's enough to destroy enough infrastructure that the grocery the store shelves go empty. How long before people are killing each other? They don't need to come and kill us. All they need to do is stop the food supply, and we'll be killing each other in no time flat. Look at Venezuela. I mean, if you don't know this, at the end of World War II, the starvation in Russia was so bad that they actually printed and posted flyers telling people to not eat their children.
That's because it happened during the Bolshevik, during the communist times. Before then, the peasants were growing plenty of food. It wasn't until the peasants were reined in that food became a real problem. And cities are always a problem because cities are parasitic. Cities consume, they don't produce.
Okay, that's all well and good, and I don't dispute that. My point is that we are going to wind up killing each other. People will kill to feed their kids. People will kill to feed themselves. They can stand back and just watch it collapse. We know they want depopulation. We know the big event is coming. They're preparing for it. I mean, we've discussed this before on the show about the militarization of the police force, not just here, but literally in every country around the world, is completely militarizing and beefing up and armoring the shit out of their police and their training. Look at all the drills. Some of them go live, but I mean, look, just go online and look at the drills. They're enormous. They're everywhere. They're all the time. They're practicing. Fuck, they practice shooting zombies, for Christ's sakes. Have you seen that shit?
Zombie apocalypse training.
Yeah.
They actually practice shooting zombies.
I actually heard James Bartley talking about this yesterday. That's part of the super soldier, air quotes, super soldier program training.
Well,
you remember Obama?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ian.
Obama said we need a strong civilian force instead of relying on our law enforcement and army. Right? We need a strong,
equally funded and exactly.
Militias, as they have them in the Constitution. Do you know that there was no police in the UK or United States till the mid-1800s? And in each case, they were hired by the government to protect them from mobs. They were the police were not formed to take care of the citizenry. They were formed to take care of the government.
Yeah, they're law enforcers. They're not
That's why they're called police. It's a spinoff of the word policy. It's policy enforcement.
Right.
And that little thing of serve and protect, you have to ask, who are they serving and who are they protecting?
I think they've
Exactly.
changed most of that now. It doesn't say that anymore.
But even if it did, who are they serving and who are they protecting?
The city corporation.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I'm quite sure the average policeman is unaware of that, because if they were aware of that, they again, the army, the police, many of these people kind of sleepwalking into these things and told they're providing a great service to the people. Oh, honor our soldiers, and honor the police and whatever. These are all that's all mindfuck.
Well,
Yes, it is.
You guys have heard about the police that were turning people away that had a high IQ, and they were only hiring people with a lower IQ for police officers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And their excuse for this was that the higher IQ'd police officers would get bored more easy.
They would get bored.
Totally.
Yeah, right.
Plus, they're uncontrollable.
That's what it is.
They think for themselves.
Exactly, and they'll wake
don't
up
want
and
'em-
snap out of it and say, "Whoa, what am I doing here?"
Now
Right?
apply that to the DC police force and the Seth Rich murder, which, by the way, I wanted to throw in there. There's no police footage or no street cam footage because the police have it in custody and evidence, and the case is still open.
And when I say police, I'm not talking about individual humans, because I'm talking about the institution, the non-human
Yes.
part of
It's
it.
a Masonic institution as well.
They all are.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up Seth Rich. And if you guys don't mind, let's do a couple of minutes of overtime, because, and I don't want to get into detail on the George Webb, Dave Acton thing, but I would like to point out and highlight and discuss for a moment the effect that this fucking debacle has had on the Seth Rich investigation.
Is
Now, I
Seth Rich
understand.
even a real person?
I understand that some people out there are already calling this Seth Rich a complete hoax, that it never even happened. Maybe it didn't. I don't know. I mean, it could absolutely be a full-on psyop.
I think the psyop is more on what's going on YouTube, if there is one. Like, that could be the distraction from the murder itself,
There seems to be an awful large trail suggesting Seth Rich was a real person and then he did the job that they said he did. Now, whether or not he was actually gunned down, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't know where he was killed, when he was killed, or anything.
How he was killed. Right.
It's all speculation.
Right. None of it makes sense. Oh, and by the way, the last I heard, and I think I saw this either today or yesterday, that last I heard that now the family is supposedly in possession of the laptop.
Really?
Yeah, you remember the I don't know if you know anything about the laptop, but it disappeared. The DC police had it, and then they said, "Oh no, the FBI have it," and the FBI said, "No, we don't know where the fuck it is." Well, now the latest I heard is that the family's in possession of the laptop.
And it's been wiped.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, the whole thing that happened with Rob Wheeler, if you remember that, when he came out and said, there's something fishy here, yada, yada, yada. And then the family of Seth Rich shut it down immediately and let the DNC spokesperson speak for them.
Right.
Which was kind of...
That's what we were
Yes, I
told.
thought all that was very peculiar.
That's only what we were told.
Okay, so really, I mean, a lot of people were lauding this guy, George Webb, as being this fantastic reporter, journalist, researcher, investigator. And then, I've been loosely following Dave Acton for, I don't know, a year or so. And lately, he started attacking George Webb like crazy for what appeared to me to be no reason. And I thought, okay, what's up, Dave? Why are you going after George Webb? Everybody loves this guy. He's all over the...
I thought it was his brother.
That's my point.
Well, and
Now,
some people are saying they're the same person.
They're not.
They're not the same person.
They're not the same person.
That's what's being said.
They're probably twin brothers or...
They're not, well, they're absolutely not the same person. I'm wholeheartedly convinced of that, and I didn't even look very hard to figure that one out.
One of them was in jail when the other one was making videos, so that's the way it goes. They're not one person.
Well, the voices don't match, and there are images of Dave Acton, face images, and he's apparently done some reporting for InfoWars, so you can get pictures of his face.
Yes.
George Webb's face is all over YouTube. They're not the same fucking person. Anyway, my point is, Dave Acton came out a couple of weeks ago before any of us knew that they were brothers, and he just started attacking George. And there's a bunch. I don't know if he pulled him down, but he put up video after video after video for a week or two solid, just hammering George Webb. And I'm scratching my head, going, "Okay, what's up with this?" And next thing you know, he says, "Okay, this is my brother." Next thing you know, George Webb puts out a video saying, "Yep, that's my brother. Dave Acton's my brother." Next thing you know, we find out Dave Acton is actually a DHS employee, cybersecurity for Air Force intelligence. Holy fuck! What? Next thing you know, George Webb is drinking heavily on camera. I understand he's admitted some Mossad connections.
Yep.
What the fuck?
Let me add another layer of fuckery on this. I remember when the Jason Goodman Trish thing blew up with Rabbit. If you weren't following that
vaguely, I really never followed Goodman or DeFango.
They're part of the whole CrowdStrike effort.
I know. Okay, I understand that, but I just never follow these people.
So I know, and they got a zip file from a leaker that apparently they unzipped and rezipped, but claimed they didn't touch it, kind of thing, and gave it to DeFango, who actually got the original. If this is the way it went, anyway, they did a live stream from some restaurant on Twitter, on Periscope, that was like, what the fuck's wrong with this guy DeFango, blah 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 blah. And right at the end of it, he said DeFango's dad is CIA anyway, which I thought was really interesting.
Okay,
yeah.
Wow.
George Webb is trying to be a web of deceit.
Yeah, and then where does Nathan Stoltman fit into this?
Nathan Stoltman, you're talking Lift the Veil?
Yeah,
that's a good question. I had some dealings with that guy early on, and when he was like all enthusiastic about getting together and doing things, and then the next time I talked to him, it was like it almost as if oh yeah, well, whatever. And I went, that's kind of the behavior of a psychopath.
Plus, he's gone to Uncle Fester. Nathan did.
Has he? I unsubbed and left after we had some. Well, after what he did to Robin, doxing him under the guise of, "Gee, who is this guy?" And then he puts out his personal information, his home address, his phone number. And it's like, you don't do that.
Was the guy harassing him? It might be warranted.
No, that's the thing. No, Robin was, Robin, how I see the world. He was just doing his thing, and out of the blue, Nathan comes out and basically doxes him. And I'm like, what? No. And so I unsubbed, and I have refused to even look at any of his vids, so I don't know what he's up to these days. But I'm convinced that there's something not quite right about that guy.
So I'm reading the chat here, Jerry. I noticed you said LOL shit show for sure. It's too confusing.
Not this, the DeFango, George Webb, Nathan Stoltman shit show.
Okay, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Because I caught my eye because I said almost that exact same thing in another comment thread under one of my videos. That ultimately, at the end of my comment, I did say that it's a shit show. It's a giant shit show, and ultimately, the effect of it is that all the attention has been taken off of Seth Rich.
Yep, it's all distraction.
That's true.
So there are couple of people here and there that still mention Seth Rich, but ultimately it's a dead issue. And we've discussed this with Robin, and we all agree that even if the investigation continues, it's not going to go anywhere. All the agencies are involved. They're all corrupt. Who the fuck is going to prosecute? Hillary's not going to jail. Nobody's going to jail for Seth Rich.
Trump's going to save us. Come on.
Well,
Did you? There's another player in the game now. His name's Quinn Michaels.
Oh yeah,
No,
what's his role?
no. Wait a minute, that's not him. He's like doxing. I think he's the one who came up with the Defango. Is this somebody Swellington? Like
I'm going to be very honest. Until this evening, I had never heard of this Defango.
Oh, well, he's been around for a long time.
I don't doubt that, but
He's a weird character too.
Never heard of him.
He's a geek, like me. He just doesn't really give a shit.
No.
Okay.
Well, guys, we know that the YouTube has been infiltrated by numerous CIA shills. We've got trolls everywhere. What's another good platform that people can migrate over there? I mean, we'd be preaching to the choir, of course, because YouTube has a lot of new viewership
YouTube
all the
is
time.
full of sheep. So this is if we want to wake up the sheep, this is where you go.
Yeah.
The time for waking up the sheep is over.
I agree, man. I've had
that's
it.
just what I'm trying to get at here. It's like, how long are we going to spend trying to wake up people who just don't want to drink the water, right?
I stopped a while ago.
Yeah, I just keep working on. Well, I will say this: I have had a little more success in waking people up because I mean, let's face it. If you are awakened by your alarm clock and you don't want to get up, are you as likely to get up as you would be if somebody walked in with breakfast in bed delivered to you?
I was actually thinking about this tonight, about how we're in this mess because we're a bunch of lazy fucks, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I would call myself lazy.
Over the last 1,000 years or whatever.
Okay, well,
right.
Yeah, he's not talking about us specifically.
Yeah, we as a collective.
Well, I don't know that it's even that's true. I think that what has happened is that our minds have been taken and tweaked, and our understanding of things has been devolved on purpose.
I think we've become.
But
I think
Amy,
we've
that's
become lazy-minded too, though.
Say again, Ian.
I think civilization has become very lazy-minded as well.
Right. I was going to go back to that because I think Jerry's right, Amy. I think even though you're correct, Amy, I think it still could be boiled back down to laziness. I mean, if we, if I even just brought up, it makes me think of the John Taylor Gatto interview that I have on my channel and some of his other interviews where he talks about the Prussian education system. It comes here it started in the 1850s. It was brought to this country in the early 1900s, et cetera, et cetera. Well, in one of his long presentations, you can find it online. He compares the Amish people in this country. He said that the Amish opted out of the compulsory education system in this country. And he said that the only reason that they were allowed to opt out is because they were willing to go to jail en masse.
Right.
That's what goes back to what Jerry said, that we as a collective have become lazy. The Amish people are not lazy. They were willing to stand up en masse.
Well, yeah, but I'm going to tell you one thing. Most people don't know that they have that choice because they're never taught that that is a choice that they have.
They're taught to work with government and authority.
You're taught just suck up to authority.
Hey, look, Amy, we were all taught the same thing, and yet everyone on this panel and most of the people listening were not intellectually lazy, and we took our own initiative and we stepped outside the box and we went learning on our own. Okay.
Well, I agree, but then most of the people that we're talking about here are brighter than the average bear.
I think part of the discomfort with discussing this situation about this as a collective we is because so many of us have family and loved ones that fall into that category, and we rise to their defense in some sense. Rather than seeing what's really going on.
On top of all that, there's so much fuckery going on that there's really no one good place to start that you can unfold for people.
No kidding.
Where can you go? Oh, you know what? Yeah, I don't know. The ISS is fake, or I don't even want to go there. That you're traded on the stock market.
Right.
Your birth certificate.
I was just going to say, I'm not traded on the stock
Okay,
market.
well, everyone else is.
The name corporation is traded on the stock market, and we are duped into believing that it is us.
No, the corporate fiction is. I get that. I'm just saying. That's just one example. Well, look, you could pick any crazy conspiracy theory that's probably true, like 9/11 even.
Yeah.
You can't even go there because it's such a taboo thing.
Right.
Or even say the Holocaust, you can't even talk about in Germany without going to jail, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
The Native Americans who might still remember the old ways could give us one of the greatest educations of the mind virus, and the lack of respect for nature, the concept of private property, all of this shit that comes with how we got imprisoned. They could give us, those who could remember would be able to give us a great education. And that's one of the reasons why they were exterminated to the point they could be marginalized. They hold dangerous knowledge.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, no, Rufus, we're not shutting it down. It's falling apart. That's why everything's crazy right now, because we're in the end times.
I'm talking to Bella. I'm meant to chat. We're about to shut the show down.
Yeah, I got to go.
Yeah.
Well, we'd love to have Wizard there on to go more into depth about the Freemasonry and the craft and things like that.
We'll have Radagast back. He's a cool dude, and I've been wanting to talk to him. And
there's
he'll be around.
There's a podcast called Those Conspiracy Guys. Really good guys. They just put out a 4-hour episode on the Freemasons if you want some really deep info.
Good. It's called Those Conspiracy Guys?
Yeah,
I've seen it around. I haven't checked them out, though.
Can you pop a link?
I'm doing it right now.
Jerry, are you on Skype?
I am. It's
okay, well, make sure you add us.
Cthulhu.
I have to check. I have somebody that, if they're available, has been wanting to talk to me for days. But if they currently are not available, then I'm free again.
Oh, okay.
I mean, tonight. Okay. I'm talking about for the next hour or two.
Oh, well, no, it's another.
Yeah, you guys
would like to have you on our show.
I'm speaking to Jerry because he invited me.
Oh, okay.
Jerry, yeah.
I got it.
You have an open invitation. You know that.
Thank you, Jerry.
All of you do. Everyone does, except that Michael Resnicki guy. He doesn't get to come in.
No, not. Do you know that he put out a defamatory, harassing video reporting me for racial stuff?
Now we don't. Now you're assuming.
Okay,
you're assuming that that's
I'm
Michael.
assuming it's him. I am, but there's. Let's put it this way.
There's a new troll.
It's a high probability it's him.
Yeah.
Okay. High probability.
I'm pretty
it's
sure
Michael
he's
Resnick.
single-handedly responsible for all the thumbs down I have on my channel.
And
me too.
It's become pretty apparent that he now has extra free time on his hands because apparently he is now unemployed. And if anybody paying attention to the chat box early on in the show, we must have deleted 10 or 12 accounts from this character who just kept coming back and coming back
tonight.
Yep.
He just pounding hard for an hour. I'm surprised we only have 2 thumbs down. He usually gives us a good 15 or 20 before the show is over.
You banned his accounts too fast before you could thumbs down it.
Yeah.
Something. Man.
All right. Well, listen, we're gonna migrate over to Jerry's Hangout. Jerry, where do we find it?
It's gonna be about a half hour. I'll send you links.
Is it on your channel?
Yeah, it is. But I'm.
Is it going to be a Google Hangout so we can find you on your channel?
Yeah.
I'm talking about listeners and viewers.
Yeah, it's already listed. This
Okay.
is the Hangout for you guys.
Okay.
And I'm going to get some food, and when I come back, I'll start it up.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I just want to let you know I will not be able to do that. It's getting close to my bedtime, and I've already annoyed the people that I'm here staying with enough. for the night.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just got to go out for about 20 minutes or so, and then I'll come in.
Perfect.
Well, let me say
Yeah,
one more thing real quick. RT typed a message and then deleted it. Something about trolls or have no life or whatever. If you guys are not aware, there's a thing called OPMS. It's Online Persona Management Services. This is created thank you to the NDAA. It basically, the OPMS, Online Persona Management, allows for the military to create and operate and maintain, now get this, 10 sock puppet accounts per U.S. military personnel. Now, that doesn't mean that each military personnel would have an account. It allows them to create 10 accounts for every U.S. military personnel. Now, we currently have 1.4 million U.S. military personnel. That's 10.4 million potential sock accounts. And I would remind you that that is just the U.S. military. That does not include other governments, other agencies, other intelligence agencies, or corporate entities. So we're talking about potentially tens of millions of sock puppet troll accounts. So some people are mentally unstable. Michael Resnicki certainly falls into that category, but Michael
if he's real, it could be one of those sock accounts.
That's what I mean. He might be one who's on the payroll.
Well, and a lot of those accounts are run by AI. Just keep that in mind.
Resnick, he's a real person. That much.
Yeah,
for sure.
he's a real dude.
Yeah, we've had him on our chat with us before.
Yeah, it's like a vampire. We invited him in, and then we couldn't get rid of him.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, I gotta head out. So it's been great chatting with you all. Thanks for coming, Jerry.
Thank you for having me. It was great. I'll come.
Pleasure having you.
Radagast, it was great having you on, and I will be talking to you again soon, one of these days.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to meet you, and see you again, Jerry.
Yes, well, thank you. And I mean, it was Jerry's night, so I tried my best to,
It's not my night.
Well, you were listed?
It's our night.
Yeah, collective consciousness.
Exactly.
All right, guys.
But thank you. I appreciate it, Radagast.
Yeah, well, I'm used to being in a band, and I kind of, I know how to play a support role and enjoy that, actually.
Well, you're a good dude. You're a good dude, Radagast. I'm glad to have you, and hope to have you back sometime soon.
My pleasure. I enjoy you.
Listen, Jerry, thanks for showing up. Thanks for filling in our spot. We had no one for tonight, and I asked you at the last minute, yesterday, if you could make it on. And
yeah, I'll be your butt crack putty anytime you want, buddy.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I love you all.
Thanks, everybody in the chat. Sandra, Blue Blood, thanks for coming by, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Love always.
All right, Ian, you ready to take us out?
All right, till next time.
Peace.